Chapter 389. The sun rose high, sprinkling bright light. The moist sea breeze dissipated into nothingness in the city. This was a huge town full of enthusiasm. In the market, people of all walks of life were jostling each other. The sounds of hawking, haggling, shouting, and bandits were all mixed together. The news that the marine headquarters was destroyed by the flame-beard pirates was spreading on the way. Everything was as usual. What? Zidi's voice showed a hint of anxiety. The red and blue crystal clusters in your shop are also sold out? After a night's rest, she began to act in the early morning, taking advantage of the morning market to buy a lot of materials. Everything went very smoothly after all, she had already inquired about it yesterday. But in the end, there was an accident and all the red and blue crystal clusters were sold out. And this resource was a necessity for the justice pirate. Excuse me, who is it that suddenly bought so many red and blue crystal clusters? Zidi's voice was low. Sorry, we will not sell the information of our customers. This is the rule of our shop. Zidi handed a few gold coins. So, the person who received her immediately took the gold coins and changed his words. Information trading is also a business of our shop. The Sand Huang clan caravan from the lava continent? Zidi got the answer and was a little surprised. She was still guessing which big businessman launched a commercial operation for the red and blue crystal clusters. She didn't expect it to be a foreign caravan. Generally speaking, the possibility of such foreign caravans manipulating the market in other areas is relatively low. What is the purpose of the other party? Why is the demand for the red and blue crystal clusters so big and strong? Zidi had to go and negotiate. The red and blue crystal clusters were not a high-grade material, but they were indeed rare. According to the scientific name in the field of alchemy, they should be called the associated crystals of fire and water element. This crystal cluster had two colors, red and blue, and water and fire balanced each other. The Flame Island was one of the important production areas. After several inquiries, Zidi came to the Sand Huang clan caravan station. The scale of the caravan was so large that it exceeded Zidi's expectations. There was a temporary station specially arranged for the caravan in the Flame Island. Generally speaking, caravans that entered the Flame Island would not be treated like this. Zidi expressed her intention to the guards of the caravan station, but the caravan refused her request. The Sand Huang clan caravan was very arrogant. This made Zidi even more curious. She thought about it and showed the token of the elder of the Purple Vine Chamber of Commerce. The guard saw the token and his expression slightly changed. He took the token and his attitude towards Zidi became respectful. Please allow me to report this matter to the lords. Go. Zidi agreed. A moment later, Shah Bun saw the token in the largest tent of the caravan. His name was Sand Huang Clan Caravan of the Sand Huang Clan Caravan. Of the Sand Huang was the Sand Huang Clan Caravan. As the son of the Shah Huang clan's patriarch, Shah Bun's bloodline was thick and his talent was high. He had already reached the Saint Realm. Purple of the purple of the purple of commerce of the former 7th Chamber of Commerce has been devoured by the higher-ups of the Qingming Empire, but the remaining power is still not to be underestimated. Interesting. Then let me take a look. The guard brought back the token and after giving it to Zidi, he led her into the tent. The outside of the tent was ordinary, but the inside was spacious, well-designed, and beautifully decorated. A giant with a dirty braid was half lying on the soft golden sand, as if he was lying on a huge sofa. He was surrounded by several maids. There were humans, elves, and so on. All of them were beautiful and had outstanding figures. Some of them were holding huge plates full of fresh fruits, some were massaging the giant's legs, and some were fanning the giant lightly. I am the young master of the Sand Huang clan, the only successor, the Saint Warrior Sand Huang clan. Magician from the Purple Vine Chamber of Commerce, tell me why you are here. The giant spoke first. He only opened his eyes and looked at ZD with an arrogant attitude. ZD bowed to him and told him why she wanted to buy the red and blue crystals. San Huang was disappointed. Such a small matter? Behind the mask, ZD's voice was neither humble nor arrogant. Compared to you, I'm just a small black iron mage. I'm not even worth mentioning. Since I'm in charge of the affairs of the Chamber of Commerce, I'm naturally not that important. However, we'll buy as many red and blue crystals as you have. The price is negotiable. San Huang closed his eyes and lost interest in ZD. You can leave now. He didn't care about such a small business. ZD quickly said, although I'm weak, I still have many connections in the Chamber of Commerce. If I'm lucky enough to make this deal with your Chamber of Commerce, we can cooperate in other fields. Sha Bun snorted in displeasure. ZD's body shook as if she had suffered a mental blow. She didn't dare to stay any longer. She bowed and left the tent, leaving the San Huang clan's Chamber of Commerce. Hee, how can the merchants of the Purple Vine Chamber of Commerce be so blind? I told her to leave, but she insisted on talking. She learned her lesson and ran away in the end. A maid smiled. She peeled a grape the size of an apple and brought it to San Huang's mouth. San Huang ate one and shook his head. This black iron magician isn't simple. Her mental space is strong and vast. I plan to hurt her for a month, but it seems she'll recover in a week at most. Although the Purple Vine Chamber of Commerce isn't as good as it used to be, you can see that even if the ship is rotten, there's still a few pounds of nails left. Spitfire City was built around a volcano. The real core wasn't the town, but the depths of the volcano. This wasn't a secret. Many giant magic arrays were set up in the depths of the volcano. They were used to seal, defend, and investigate. As the master of Spitfire City, the legendary giant AI was overseeing it all year round. Sang Su's mission this time was to investigate the details of this place. Am I reaching my limit? Sang Su's face was pale. His body was on the verge of collapse, and his mind was in a trance. He had been investigating for almost the entire morning. Although his main body was still in the town, he relied on casting spells and controlling ghosts. The results of his investigation were much better than that of a sacred thief. This was mainly because most investigative and defensive methods were useless against new necromancy spells. They were almost all flaws. The location of the passage to the abyss has been investigated. It's time to retreat. Sang Su mobilized several ghosts and undead and began to withdraw gradually. Boom! At this moment the earth shook. A loud sound came from the depths of the volcano. Bright red magma boiled. A cloud of black smoke rose from the volcano and rushed into the sky. What's going on? Sang Su was bewildered. In an instant, he saw through the vision of ghosts that there seemed to be a figure moving in the depths of the volcano. If I retreat now, I can still retrieve these ghosts. If I continue to investigate, these ghosts will probably be exhausted. Or after I retrieve them, I'll recuperate and heal these ghosts so they can sneak in to investigate again in a complete state? Sang Su was faced with a choice. He was somewhat hesitant, but soon, he made his decision. He resolutely chose to sacrifice these ghosts and let them rush deeper into the volcano. The reason for this choice was that Sang Su knew his own situation and was pressed for time. The second reason was that the depths of the volcano were very hidden. This time, they took the initiative to expose themselves and let him discover them. If he missed this opportunity, he might not be able to find anything even if he sneaked into the correct location with just ghost detection. Just as the few ghosts rushed into the important area, they heard another loud boom. Waves of air mixed with the aftermath of magic power swept out in all directions like a raging storm. The ghost floating at the front was torn apart on the spot by the shockwave. Sang Su hurriedly commanded the ghosts to hide behind protruding rocks. Only then did he save the last three. The ghosts were constantly weakened by the surrounding environment while investigating the volcano and were constantly being damaged. They had held on for so long and were already at the end of their rope. The three ghosts continued to go deeper. Through the vision of the ghosts, Sang-Soo's pupils suddenly shrank. He saw a giant. A legendary giant. She was holding a giant hammer up high, hitting a giant dragon. Every time she hit it, a thunderous sound would be heard. Terrifying shock waves would be created around her. The shock waves from the hammer would spread out in all directions. She should be Aiu, the city lord of Flame Spitfire City. Then what's with this giant dragon? Sang-Soo endured his headache and continued to observe. He quickly discovered that this giant dragon was ferocious, with a head full of curved horns. It wasn't a dragon of the main world, but rather an abyss demon dragon. And the demon dragon's aura was also legendary. This isn't a living demon dragon. You must have used the demon dragon's corpse to create a giant dragon war puppet. She's originally very good at creating puppets. At this point, there were only two of Sang-Soo's ghosts left. You breathed heavily and suddenly stopped. Come out! The demon dragon's belly suddenly opened and a female giant came out. Patriarch, the female giant called out to Aiu, I can still hold on, let me continue to help you. She was smaller than Aiu and the demon dragon, so she was able to enter the demon dragon's body. Aiu's skin was brownish red, but this female giant's skin was light red. She wore a golden headband, her hair was disheveled and her face was covered in dirt. Her hands weren't empty either, one of them was holding an anvil, the other a large brick. Brick, Aiu shook her head. You forgot something more important. The young patriarch of the Sha Huang tribe has been waiting for you for 5 to 6 days. Go see him. Don't forget, you have a responsibility on your shoulders. The saint-rank female giant Brick curled her lips, unwillingly put down the anvil and brick in her hands and grunted. At this point, Sang-Soo's last ghost couldn't hold on any longer and silently dissipated. Chapter 390. In the room, Sang-Soo knelt on the ground, panting heavily. His vision was dizzy. The ghosts he used for reconnaissance maintained a close mental connection with him. When the ghosts were destroyed, they would also implicate Sang-Soo, causing his mind to suffer from a backlash. After checking the alchemy array in the room and confirming that there were no problems, Sang-Soo immediately drank a potion and meditated on the spot. After a while, he opened his eyes. The dizziness was slightly better, but a dull pain filled his entire body. My body has been transformed by necromancy. I'm already a half-dead, half-alive person. This pain is not physical, but spiritual. It seems that this time, I lost too many ghosts at once, causing my soul to be damaged as well. Sang-Soo sighed. He had found the reason. I can't stay here for too long. Sang-Soo decided to return to the deep-sea monster fish first, then deal with the injuries to his soul. He began to tidy up the alchemy array in the room. The array diagram of this array came from the Tower Genie's database. After it was set up, a mage could cast spells in the array, effectively restraining magic power fluctuations. Without this layer of array, Sang-Soo would definitely be discovered by the city guards when he used necromancy. Large cities like Fire Spray City all had mage towers. They all had detection magic facilities or constant spells. There were even regional magic net. Under the cover of the magic net, if a mage wanted to cast spells, they had to seek the corresponding authority of the magic net. Fire Spray City was not a magic city, so it did not have a regional magic net. After tidying up the array and destroying all traces of it, Sang-Soo cautiously checked many times before leaving. After making sure that he did not leave any obvious clues, he pushed open the door and walked out with a normal expression. It was already evening. He blended into the crowd on the street and was inconspicuous. Not long after, he successfully met up with the other members of the Justice Pirate. After a simple exchange, ZD said to Sang-Soo with a hint of impatience, I need your help. All the materials have been successfully purchased. Only the last item is left, the red and blue crystal clusters. The giant caravan of the Sand Yellow clan has bought all the red and blue crystal clusters in the city. I went to their door, but the discussion failed. Later on, we found out that the Sand Yellow clan's caravan had come from afar. The caravan was just a cover. Their real plan was to escort their young master, Chang Sha Bun, to the fire-spitting city to marry the giants here. This information was not difficult to find out. Although the Sha Huang caravan tried their best to hide it, when they reached the fire spray city, they took the initiative to spread the news. In fact, even if they didn't spread the news, the citizens of Spitfire City had their own guesses about the giants who had come from afar. The marriage proposal was initiated by Aiu, the Lord of Fire Spitting City. The target was not only the Sand Yellow clan. ZD continued. Sha Bun's marriage partner is Jianyao of Fire Spray City. The latter is a master alchemist personally taught by Aiu. Like Sha Bun, he's also a saint. In order to succeed in the marriage, the Sand Yellow clan brought a lot of rare resources and treasures to be used as bargaining chips for the marriage. I need to find out information about the caravan's base and try to steal the red and blue crystal clusters tonight. ZD's proposal was very bold. Sang Su endured the pain in his soul and thought carefully. He found that ZD's idea was very wise. The main purpose of the Sand Yellow clan's caravan was to form a marriage alliance. If they wanted to trade the red and blue crystal clusters, they would not try to buy them. Instead, they would negotiate with the Fire Spitting City. The Fire Spitting City was one of the largest producers of the red and blue crystal clusters. A long-term trade would be more beneficial for both sides. Since the Sand Yellow caravan did not do so, and instead spent more than 30% of the market price to buy the red and blue crystal clusters, it meant that they urgently needed this resource. It was very likely that it was related to the marriage alliance. Since they urgently needed it, they might consume the crystal clusters on the spot. Therefore, if the Justice Pirates wanted to get these things, they had to race against time. At present, in the entire Justice Pirates, except for the young captain with the blood core, no one was better at reconnaissance than Sang Su. Sang Su looked solemn and nodded to ZD. My ghosts were all lost in the volcano. Even after paying such a price, we still managed to find a hidden space. That's Aiu's foundry. I saw this legendary giant and the saint giant Tsukiya. Let's not talk about this for now. I have to rush back to the deep-sea monster fish first. ZD nodded. Let's go back together. I also need to bring a group of people to help me. The materials purchased by ZD were currently placed in several temporarily rented warehouses. Because there were a lot of materials, in order to avoid attracting attention, ZD had planned to let the members of the Justice Pirates take some of them back to the deep-sea monster fish. This way, it would be very low-key and not so eye-catching. After a few words with the others, ZD and Sang Su left Spitfire City, sneaked all the way down to the beach, and swam back to the deep-sea monster fish. ZD contacted the other members, and Sang Su stepped into a special alchemy array to consume soul crystals to heal his soul. This alchemy array was originally set up by him, and many members benefited from it. The injuries to Sang Su's soul had been healed to a great extent. But it's not thorough enough. A moment later, the door of a dark cabin was opened by Sang Su. Sang Su stepped in silently. This was a cabin dedicated to holding captive. The captives were all in deep sleep. They were placed next to each other like sticks on the shelf. On the bottom few floors of the shelves, there was another person on top of each person. The captives were sleeping soundly. Not only were they under spells, but they were also drugged, which was double insurance. Quickly glancing at these people, Sang Su's eyes flashed with a touch of coldness. He closed the door, and the cabin immediately became dark. As he chanted, a grayish-white light lit up in the darkness. The chanting soon ended, and the necromancy spell was successfully cast. Sang-soo stretched out his hand, and a sleeping captive's body suddenly trembled slightly, and a human-shaped soul flew out of the body. The human-shaped soul was pinched in Sang-soo's hand, and as the necromancy spell took effect, the human-shaped soul let out a shrill scream, and the whole body began to distort rapidly. 10 seconds later, the human-shaped soul was distorted into a pile of slag, turned into a pile of light spots, and quickly dissipated. And the essence turned into a warm current, pouring in from Sang-soo's palm, all the way to the depths of his soul, and quickly blending. Ah! Sang-soo couldn't help but raise his head, squinting his eyes, and let out a satisfied sigh. Injuries to the soul naturally had to be treated with the soul. Not all souls had such an outstanding effect on Sang-soo's injuries. Souls also had to be compatible with each other. A compatible soul, coupled with a suitable necromancy spell, was equivalent to a special medicine for Sang-soo's condition. On the other hand, the soul crystal had a wide range of applications, and was not specifically targeted. If the soul was really injured, it could only be used as a supplementary treatment. Without this necromancy spell, Sang-soo could only wait for his soul to heal itself after using the soul crystal. Now that he used this spell, it saved him a lot of time. After consuming 3 fresh souls in a row, Sang-soo restored his soul to its peak state. He then drank the potion, and quickly recovered his magic power. But because it was daytime, when he was casting spells to control the ghosts, he drank a lot of potions. The potions he drank now were not very effective, and the cost-effectiveness ratio was very low. The situation was tense, and Sang-soo couldn't care less. With the help of the newly generated magic power, Sang-soo continuously cast necromancy spells to create ghosts. This spell had a high probability of failure. Sang-soo sacrificed more than a dozen captives, and only then did he have 3 new ghosts. After dealing with the corpses, Sang-soo left the cabin and found that ZD had already left the deep-sea monster fish with a group of people. ZD's time was even more tight. She needed these people to spread out and sneak into Fire Spray City. If the gates of Fire Spray City were closed at night, it would be more difficult to enter and exit. Fortunately, every evening there was a lot of traffic at every city gate. Many citizens of Fire Spray City had to go to other ports on Fire Spray Island for work and livelihood, but they also lived in Fire Spray City. When Sang-soo arrived at the city gate, there were already very few people, and the city gate was about to close. After he successfully entered, he met up with ZD and the others again. Late at night, the young man, ZD, Sang-soo, Sandao, and the others hid in a hotel room closest to the caravan's base. Under the cover of the alchemy array, Sang-soo controlled the ghosts to enter the caravan's base. Even the tight defenses inside the volcano couldn't stop the ghosts from spying. Investigating the caravan's base was even easier for these ghosts. They first spread out and then quickly found the warehouse. There were all sorts of rare resources stored in metal boxes of various sizes. The tent where the boxes were kept was guarded inside and outside. It was heavily guarded and very vigilant. It showed the excellent military skills of the sand giant. But it was useless. The 3 ghosts were extremely weak, but they swaggered in and out under the watchful eyes of the guards. The guards didn't notice anything. It wasn't that these people didn't have any detection methods against natural ghosts. It was that they lacked countermeasures against ghosts created by necromancy spells. Of course, as time passed, more and more people came into contact with necromancy spells and understood it. There would definitely be a way to deal with it in the future. Most of the boxes could be directly penetrated by the ghosts to check the content. In the end, only a few storage boxes were left. The quality was at least silver, and many of them were shining with the radiance of magic, which made it difficult for the ghosts to penetrate. Forcibly penetrating them would have a great impact on the ghosts and cause irreparable damage, especially since these 3 ghosts were new and very weak. There are more than 10 boxes, and we can't tell which one is which. Sang-soo frowned. Even if I abandon these 3 ghosts and sacrifice them to investigate, I'm afraid I can't find more than 2. I have an idea. ZD smiled and patted the gargoyle puppet beside her. Next, it's time for my little darling to enter the stage. Chapter 391. In the night, the gargoyle puppet moved like a ghost, quickly approaching the Sha Huang caravan's encampment from the dark corners between the houses. In the room, a magic array was operating, showing a floating image, which was what the gargoyle puppet saw. The caravan's encampment was heavily guarded, with many magic traps. Only the entrance was not set up. There were 2 gold-level guards guarding the entrance, very vigilant. Not only that, there were patrols around, patrolling the entrance every 10 minutes. Whether it was the guards or the patrols, their height and body shape were different from humans, they were standard giant. ZD commanded the gargoyle with rapt attention. There were 2 main ways to control the gargoyle. One was simple orders, such as attack, retreat, guard the place, and so on. The other was like the current situation, where ZD personally controlled it. This kind of control would make the gargoyle more spiritual, and its actions would be more appropriate to ZD's idea. But it consumed mental strength, and the range of control was not large. However, in order to expand the range of control, the Justice Pirates had already set up an alchemy array in the room before the operation. They had to thank the war dealer for this. He had too many alchemy results in his database, and there were countless alchemy arrays. ZD used her mental strength to control the gargoyle, and after leaving the cover of the house, it swaggered directly to the entrance. Whether it was the 2 gold-level guards at the entrance or the patrols around the corner, they all turned a blind eye to the gargoyle. Pearl foam. In order to ensure the success of this operation, the Justice Pirates took out extremely rare and limited divine artifacts. The gargoyle used pearl foam, which could be used to camouflage intelligent beings for a certain period of time. The Sha Huang caravan had set up a large number of magic traps everywhere in the encampment. But at the entrance, to avoid trouble, they replaced the traps with guards. This point happened to be used by the Justice Pirate. Sang Su's ghost had already investigated clearly, and secretly destroyed and interfered with some. ZD was reminded, and controlled the gargoyle to bypass many magic traps, and smoothly entered the tent. There were many boxes containing supplies, but ZD was well prepared. The gargoyle opened its mouth, and spat out a bottle of potion. It opened the cork of the potion, and the potion inside immediately evaporated and drifted into the air. The potion didn't have any smell and was colorless at first. 10 seconds later, wisps of purple smoke appeared in the air. In the room of the inn, ZD explained to everyone with a smile, "Back then, I collected various prices of goods from various shops. At the same time, I also tried my best to inspect the goods. This was to prevent sellers from swapping goods with shoddy ones. The red and blue crystal cluster is one of them. After I touched it, it was stained with a colorless and odorless potion. This kind of potion is very difficult to discover. Only when you come into contact with the corresponding potion will you be able to find traces of it." When everyone heard this explanation, they suddenly understood. No wonder ZD was so confident. The young man looked at ZD with undisguised admiration in his eyes. ZD's strength was limited by her bloodline, so she was only at the black iron rank. However, she herself was very outstanding. Even some small tricks could be used by her to ingeniously solve big problems in reality. The potion in the bottle quickly evaporated. Thick purple smoke appeared in the tent. Following the traces of the purple smoke, everyone found their target. There were 2 boxes, neither of which was big. They were 40 centimeters long, 20 centimeters wide, and 30 centimeters high. The 2 boxes were exactly the same. Even if the gargoyle reached out to lift them, it would find that the weight was about the same. It would be difficult to lift them. In fact, it wasn't just these 2 boxes. There were more than a dozen boxes that were similar in appearance. These are all space boxes, alchemy creations. The specifications should be the same. It is very likely that they were made by the same person. In the room, Sang-Soo began to command the ghosts to cooperate with the gargoyle and try to open the boxes on the spot. It was unsuccessful. This kind of box must be brought back and placed in a high-level alchemy array. Only then can it be opened safely. If you try to open it by force, not only will it trigger the alarm, but it may also trigger the runes inside, causing the treasure inside to be destroyed. At this point, ZD looked troubled. But the gargoyle can only carry one box. We can only choose one. Although these boxes weren't big, each of them was very heavy. The gargoyle was already at the silver rank, but it was difficult to maintain it. Moving only one box was still a difficult challenge for it. As for Sang-Soo's 3 ghosts, they were even more hopeless. Which one should we choose? ZD was a little hesitant as she looked at everyone. Lan Zhao said, just pick one. I think that the longer we delay, the more likely an accident will happen. In any case, both boxes have traces of purple smoke. This means that both boxes contain red and blue crystal clusters. It doesn't matter which one we choose. No. Sang-Soo shook his head. The purple smoke only indicates the whereabouts of the red and blue crystal clusters. It doesn't mean that the red and blue crystal clusters are really stored in the boxes. The simplest case is that after these people bought the red and blue crystal clusters, they put them in one box. Later, they found that the box couldn't fit them, so they put them in a second, more empty box. That's right. ZD added, moreover, the red and blue crystal clusters that I checked were only a small portion. It's possible that both boxes stored crystals, or it's possible that they were only stored for a while, and these crystals have already been taken out and used up. If there's no better way to distinguish, we can only take a gamble. San Dao gritted his teeth. Master Zhong Ji's situation is not good. He can't hold on much longer. When Zhong Gu was mentioned, everyone's face turned serious. From Confusion Island to the Eye of Heaven's Pillar Sea, Zhong Gu had become one of their closest companions. Everyone struggled to survive together, fought against strong enemies together, drank and laughed together, and thought of a way out for the future together. Saving Zhong Gu was everyone's wish. No one was willing to give up on Zhong Gu so easily. San Dao's words were the truth. Zhong Gu was running out of time. Along the way, everyone spared no expense and relied on all kinds of precious potions and rare scrolls to barely keep him alive. When they arrived at Fire-Breathing Island, his situation had deteriorated to the extreme. He doesn't have much time left. In fact, it's the same for us. Make your choice, ZD said. Who could make the choice for Zhong Gu? San Dao did not decline and pointed at the magic image in the air. I choose this box. Then, ZD was about to say something but was interrupted by the young captain. The moment San Dao made his choice, he had an intuition. Choosing the other box would be better. My feeling tells me that the other box would be better. The young man spoke his true thoughts. Everyone was stunned. San Dao stared at the young man and thought, I don't have anything to insist on. I'll listen to you, master. After making their choice, ZD and Sang-Soo immediately started to move. Sang-Soo controlled the ghosts to scout ahead. The silver gargoyle carried the box and stealthily moved forward. It had a hard time carrying the box, and its back was hunched in an exaggerated arc. His 2 broad wings had become useless. Fly. Don't even think about it. There were no surprises or dangers on the way back. They still swaggered out of the base's gate. The pearl foam really had a magical effect. Not long after, the gargoyle returned to the inn, and everyone personally touched the box. The box was very heavy, and even the young man did not have the strength to move it. He was not in his dragonoid form, nor was he in his fishman form. Give it to the big guy. Put it among the other supplies and let the big guy take it out at dawn. It was already late at night, and it was very troublesome to leave the city. Not only did they need to go through the formalities, but they would also be checked more strictly than during the day. First, clean up the traces here. We'll move to the second temporary base and have a good rest, the young captain ordered. This operation was to steal from a Saint powerhouse, and it was like pulling a tooth from a tiger's mouth. But everyone had experienced too many thrilling experiences, and this kind of risk was like a drizzle. The brave Justice Pirates quickly moved to the second temporary stronghold. It was also a hotel. According to the plan, Sandow and Lon Zao would keep watch, and the others would seize the opportunity to close their eyes and sleep. When they woke up, the sky was already bright. The Sand Yellow clan's base was still calm, and they should not have realized that they lost a box. According to ZD's arrangement, the big guy followed the morning crowd and smoothly left Fire Spray City. Not long after, on Deep Sea Monster Fish, the box was safely opened under the continuous operation of the alchemy array. There were no red and blue crystal clusters. Chapter 392. This, seeing that there was no trace of the red and blue crystal clusters in the chest, everyone's heart sank. What about Zongo? Without the red and blue crystal clusters, we can't build the alchemy array. How can we save Zongo if we can't unleash more of the power of the golden green jade coffin? Sandow clenched his fist. The cruel and cold future made his eyes red and round with anger. The goblin straightened his neck and suddenly said, "Let's go back and steal again. Let's steal the other treasure chest." ZD and Sang Su looked at each other, worried. There's not enough time. Besides, if we go back and steal again, the risk will be at least 10 times higher. Sandow gritted his teeth. We were wrong. At that time, after stealing a chest, we could have just left it there and continued. ZD and Sang Su both shook their heads. The latter said, "The alchemy array can't hold on anymore. I'm not in good condition and have hit rock bottom. Miss ZD's spirit is also mostly exhausted. She needs to rest." Sandow shouted, "Then hurry up and rest. Seize the time. When we're better, we'll steal again." Lon Zao shook his head. "Sandow, calm down. Even if we go back and steal that chest, are you sure it's there? It's very likely that the situation is the same as now." Sandow, "Then what can we do?" His face was very ugly as he muttered to himself, "If only we had chosen the other chest." The young captain's tone was heavy as he blamed himself. "This is my responsibility." ZD shook her head. "It's not your fault at all. We were all gambling. Everyone agreed to choose this chest. It's true that one has to take responsibility for making decisions, but it's too unfair to blame you for this matter." At this point, the president of the Chamber of Commerce looked at Sandow with a cold gaze. Sandow didn't back down. His attitude was very tough. The teenage captain walked between ZD and Sandow, separating them from each other. "Everyone, calm down." His face was solemn, and his gaze gave off a strong sense of majesty. Everyone restrained their expressions, be it Sandow or ZD. The authority of the young captain as a leader was undoubtedly displayed at this moment. The teenager took a deep breath and said sincerely, "We are in a very dangerous situation now. Perhaps the Flame Island is the last stop of the Justice Pirate. Everyone is under a lot of psychological pressure, but there is no need to fight among ourselves and vent this pressure on our companions. Along the way, we have supported each other and experienced countless hardships and dangers. We broke into the underground alchemy factory of the war traffickers and barely made it out alive. We rushed out of the Heavenly Pillar Sea's Eye, which was extremely thrilling. We evaded the pursuit of the Imperial Navy and struggled to survive. Zongo has fallen. He fought with his life on the line for this group. Therefore, we will never give up on him. We don't have much time left, and we don't have many chances left. But we still have hope and can continue to try." As soon as the voice fell, Sang Su immediately nodded. As a butler of a noble, He was very good at maintaining authority. Just like before, he immediately expressed his support for the teenager. Sir is absolutely right. Zhong Ji's situation is very complicated and serious. Since he fell into a coma, we have been trying our best to save him. The potions, scrolls, and so on consumed are of astonishing value. These treatment methods come from the Empire, and the quality is quite high. It is almost impossible to obtain better treatment methods from the outside world, because our situation is too difficult. Only with the help of the alchemy array and better display the power of the golden green jade coffin can there be hope to cure Zhongguo. At this point, Song-su looked at Sandao again. We have been working hard and have never thought of giving up. Your proposal is to continue stealing, but this method is very risky. ZD shook her head and analyzed. There is not enough time. We have to set up the array and find a suitable place to hide and cast spells again. If we continue to steal, the possibility of being exposed is too high. If I were a giant of the Sand Huang tribe, I would definitely take inventory of these resources and treasures every day. There is one possibility, that our theft has already been discovered, but they are not doing it in secret. To them, Spitfire City is not their territory. It is also very possible that they are being more cautious. After all, they have so many boxes, and only one of them is missing. There is no need to make a fuss. More importantly, if this matter is blown out of proportion, it means that they are not good at guarding and are very incompetent. This is very humiliating for the Sand Huang clan. This will cause more trouble for their marriage alliance in Spitfire City. At this point, ZD paused for a moment. Actually, we can change our way of thinking. We can start to negotiate with them. We can use the treasures in the box we stole or other things to exchange for the red and blue crystal clusters. Of course, this way they will immediately suspect me. After all, I have met with them before and expressed my strong desire to buy them. This is not a big deal. With our current situation, it doesn't matter if we provoke one more saint. Moreover, we have a legitimate reason. Then, ZD told him that she had been attacked secretly in the tent and her mind had been injured. You are injured? The young man was very concerned. ZD hurriedly said, I am not deliberately hiding it. It is just that this matter does not affect the overall situation. To be honest, when I stole the treasure box, I really reached my limit. Hearing this, Sandao's face showed a trace of shame. ZD did not care about Sandao's bad attitude. The young man's sincere concern made her secretly happy and happy. Sandao frowned and said, If we are going to negotiate, then let me go. I can threaten the young patriarch of the Sand Huang tribe and use the excuse of breaking the marriage alliance to increase the bargaining chip. He was enlightened by ZD's words. As a saint, Sandbun was indeed powerful. The entire Sand Huang tribe's caravan was also stronger than the Justice Pirates. But this did not mean that the Justice Pirates could only be at a disadvantage. The situation was different. The Sand Huang tribe also had weaknesses and flaws. Song-su interrupted, Other than stealing, there are indeed other ways. If we are going to negotiate, then the treasure in this box is also one of our bargaining chip. If its value is high, it will be more advantageous for us to negotiate. With this reminder, everyone looked at the box carefully. There was only one thing in the box. It was obvious that this was an alchemy item. After taking it out, this alchemy treasure was completely displayed in front of everyone. It was about the same size as an adult, about 1.75 meters. Its entire form was like an octopus, with many tentacles. It was more like an evil eye, but with many eyes. The entire spherical head was surrounded by eyes. These eyeballs were of different sizes, but they were not densely packed, and were arranged in a very orderly manner. The entire alchemy octopus exuded an exquisite beauty. Even a mortal who knew nothing about alchemy could feel at a glance that this treasure was no small matter. It can actually float in the air by itself? Lan Zhao was very curious, But why doesn't it have any aura? This just shows its value. Sang-Soo smiled. Although he was not very good at alchemy, during that period of time, he was forced to act as an alchemist for the Justice Pirates, which was very painful and torturous. But because of this, he knew a lot about alchemy. Sang-Soo first pointed out a few parts of the octopus's body, identifying these materials. The quality of these materials is very high. They are generally gold-grade materials, and even saint-grade materials. According to common sense, the aura of these materials would mix together and conflict with each other. But you see, it has no aura. This shows that the craftsmanship is just right, allowing all the materials to blend perfectly. If there is even a little imperfection, the aura will definitely leak out. When we really activate this item, we should be able to feel its aura. To be on the safe side, everyone still used pearl foam to prevent this alchemy puppet from attacking after it was activated. The one who instilled spirit and magic power into it was Sang-Soo. ZD herself was injured, and it was not convenient for her to continue taking risk. At the same time, if Sang-Soo was injured, he could use necromancy to heal himself. But if ZD was injured, Sang-Soo's necromancy to heal ZD would have a lot of side effects. After all, Sang-Soo's body had been modified by necromancy. After receiving Sang-Soo's magic power, this alchemy puppet's eyes lit up a few times. Sang-Soo also received the information inside the alchemy body. He revealed a shocked expression and cried out involuntarily, "This is actually a saint-grade alchemy puppet. The one who made it is actually Chiao Fu, an alchemy grandmaster of the elves, even more qualified than the war dealers." Chapter 393. Everyone in the Righteous Pirates had heard of Chiao Fu. She was already more than 800 years old, which was considered old even for an elf. The war dealer was a goblin, so the age limit of his race couldn't be compared to Chiao Fu's. When Chiao Fu became famous, the war dealer hadn't even been born yet. Chiao Fu isn't important, the key is that this is a saint-level alchemy puppet. Lan Zhao exclaimed. For the Righteous Pirates, this was undoubtedly a sudden increase in saint-level combat power. But then, Sang-Soo slowly shook his head. "I know what you're thinking, but unfortunately, this isn't a combat alchemy puppet. The information left behind by Chiao Fu is very limited. Its model is called Alchemy Assistant Type 3. It's specially made to act as an assistant for alchemists. These tentacles are very flexible, 100 times more flexible than a human hand. Of course, it needs to be equipped with the corresponding alchemy tools. Its structure is very fine, it uses a lot of materials, and its quality is very high, but its combat power is very low. A black iron-level fighter can suppress it. Given enough time, a fighter will be able to destroy it. Apart from that," Sang-Soo said as he began to control the alchemy puppet. The back of the puppet's head suddenly opened and spat out a tube. The tube was originally inserted into the alchemy puppet's head, but now a small part of it popped out. Sang-Soo reached out, took one end of the tube, and carefully pulled it out. The tube was about the size and thickness of an adult's arm. It was translucent, and both the surface and the interior were densely packed with tiny ant-like alchemy runes. Sang-Soo pointed at the middle of the tube. "Look here." Everyone's eyes lit up. They found that the tube stored red and blue crystal clusters. Apart from that, there were other types of elemental crystals. Yellow crystals representing earth elements, green crystals representing wind elements, and so on. Sandao's face flashed with joy, but it quickly disappeared. Because he found that there were too few red and blue crystal clusters. Sang-Soo continued, "To power this alchemy puppet, you need all kinds of elemental crystals. The quality of each type of crystal has to be at least saint level." Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Sang-Soo continued, "If the quality of a certain type of crystal is not up to standard, it can still barely operate. but the prerequisite is that it must be a composite element crystal cluster. This should be the reason why the San Huang Race's caravan is purchasing the red and blue crystal clusters in Flame Spray City. The puppet octopus assistant didn't have the structure of a mana pool. Mana pools were generally used in large-scale and super-large-scale alchemy creations. For example, the Mage Tower and the Magic Ship. The magic of the octopus assistant was directly extracted from the elemental crystals through a sophisticated device. The extracted magic power of various attributes was also very helpful for alchemy. Many alchemy methods had more or less elemental requirement. Sometimes the requirements were harsh and sometimes the requirements were strange. ZD smiled and said, "That's not bad. Don't we need an alchemist? Now that we have it, we don't need to take the risk of recruiting outsiders. After all, our secret is too important. This alchemy puppet is naturally worthy of our trust." Song Su sighed. Now, this alchemy puppet still can't be activated. It still lacks a spirit. ZD was slightly stunned. You mean it needs to be equipped with an intelligent spirit? Song Su nodded, yes. The grade of this intelligent spirit also needs to be high, otherwise it will be very difficult to display the alchemy puppet's function. Of course, it can be activated now. However, even the slightest movement requires me to command it. Sandao suddenly said, "Since it can't be used, we can use it to negotiate with the San Huang caravan. Such a high-grade alchemy puppet should be their most valuable betrothal gift." Song Su muttered, "The Lord of Flame Spray City is very accomplished in alchemy and is also very good at making alchemy puppets. But she makes large-scale puppets, while Qiao Fu is more proficient in making smaller models. In any case, this alchemy puppet is very attractive to the Lord of Flame Spray City. It's a bit bad." ZD shook her head. "The value of this treasure is too high. Once it is discovered that it has been stolen, the San Huang caravan will definitely fly into a rage and mobilize all their forces to find this item. This situation is very different from what we guessed before. Reputation is already secondary. They are very likely to inform Flame Spray City and borrow the local forces to hunt down and frantically search for this puppet." ZD's analysis was very reasonable, and everyone's heart couldn't help but sink. If Flame Spray City was mobilized by the San Huang caravan, it would be extremely disadvantageous for the Justice Pirates. They would fall into a situation where it would be difficult to take a single step forward. The situation is indeed not good. The young captain said, "It's related to the power of a saint. If it was a combat puppet, then forget it. This is an alchemy assistant that can continuously perform alchemy and produce endless value. We are very likely to be searched and attacked by the Lord of Flame Spray City because of this. We have to contact the San Huang caravan as soon as possible before they decide to give up their reputation and tell the Lord of Flame Spray City about this matter. Compared to facing the legend-rank Lord of Flame Spray City, facing the saint-rank Sandbun is much less pressure." "Sir, thank you." Sandao solemnly bowed to the young captain to express his gratitude. The young captain didn't hesitate at all and directly gave up on this alchemy puppet, choosing to take the risk and negotiate to save Zhong Guo. This moved Sandao, but at the same time, he also felt a lot of guilt. The young captain patted Sandao's shoulder, next, seized the time to rest and reorganize, then move out. Whether it was Song Su or ZD, they were both in a bad state. Spellcasters had much more means than Qi cultivators. In order to negotiate with the San Huang caravan, without a saint-rank fighter on their side, they would have to rely on the strength of everyone. ZD and Song Su both knew the urgency of the situation. After a race against time, they began to act. However, something unexpected happened. The city gates of the flame-spitting city were closed in an emergency. Moreover, the city was bustling with noise and commotion. Could it be that the theft of the treasure has been discovered, and the giants of the San Juan caravan took the initiative to ask the Lord of Flames Spray City for help? Damn it. Can't we use the Wisteria Chamber of Commerce's elder token to smooth things over? Now, Miss ZD should be under serious suspicion. After all, the negotiation failed and there was conflict. That's right. If we use the Wisteria Chamber of Commerce now, wouldn't we be walking right into a trap? For a moment, no one could think of a solution. They had only been here for 2 or 3 days, and they didn't have a reliable channel to gather information. They'll only open the gates after the chaos in the city is over and they haven't discovered the thief. That's right, they can't close the city forever. No, I think it's worth it for Assistant Octopus to close the city for a few days. If it were me, I would definitely turn the city upside down. Perhaps we should move out directly and negotiate. Everyone fell silent at this point in their discussion. It was too rash to directly stand out and use the alchemy puppet to threaten legends and saints. Let me do it. Sandow's expression was solemn as he stepped forward bravely. The others tried to persuade him, but Sandow was resolute. With this plan in mind, everyone had an urgent discussion and immediately retreated. Sandow went straight to the gates of Flame Spray City alone. A moment later, he rushed back. The situation isn't what we think, Sandow said. The Lord of Flame Spray City took the initiative to seal the city, clean up the city, and restore order. She wants to welcome an important guest from afar tomorrow. Perhaps this is just an excuse for her to cover up the search. No, an excuse wouldn't have such a big flaw. Who is the important guest? Tucker, Sandow replied. Chapter 394. Tucker. Hearing Sandow's answer, the few people present were a little surprised. Tucker, this was not an unfamiliar name. Although they had never met, the Justice Pirates had indirectly contacted him. More precisely, they had used the ship Spirit Repair Scroll. This scroll was Tucker's work, and it displayed his strength and talent to the fullest. And Tucker was originally of noble birth. He came from the Steel Pound family, had a strong bloodline, and had shown his genius side since he was young. Now, he had become a sanctuary-level alchemist. He was still very young, only 45 years old. His alchemy attainments were quite strong, especially in the field of tower spirits and ship spirits. He could be said to be one of the top talents in the world. After using the ship Spirit Repair Scroll, the Warmonger Tower Spirit was largely repaired, and the Justice Pirates also benefited greatly. ZD and the others also wanted to buy another scroll at the black market auction. Unfortunately, they didn't get what they wanted. The value of the ship Spirit Repair Scroll was huge, and the response to it was extremely enthusiastic. The Empire immediately made adjustments and raised the ship Spirit Repair Scroll as a strategic resource, which would be strictly controlled in the future. Since that's the case, then the news about Tucker's visit tomorrow shouldn't be bad, Lonzeo said. ZD shook her head slightly. To be on the safe side, let's make sure. The Goblin Sandow said, this news is easy to confirm, as long as we arrange for someone to go directly to the dock to guard it. Spitting Fire City was an inland mountain city that surrounded an active volcano. If Tucker and the others wanted to enter Spitting Fire City, they had to first choose a dock on Spitting Fire Island. Since Spitting Fire City was so noisy and made such a big fuss, he believed that the dock would not be bad. Therefore, the location of the dock where Tucker docked was easy to find out. The young captain thought for a moment and said, then let's split into 2 groups. One group will verify the dock. We'll wait for news all the way and decide how to enter the city. Sandow nodded. Let's do it. Wait a minute, Song Su said. We seem to have missed a possibility. Tucker's visit should be real, but perhaps our theft has already been exposed, and the Sand Yellow Tribe's giants have already sought help from Fire Spray City. So this time, the Lord of Spitfire City directly used Tucker's visit as an opportunity to secretly investigate us? Everyone frowned slightly. Indeed, they could not rule out this possibility. Sandow snorted coldly. If we worry too much about the risks, we'll lose this opportunity instead. I will go to the city alone. The former mercenary group leader was very determined. He was indeed a different goblin. Zongu had once saved his life in a shipwreck, and now he was willing to sacrifice his life to save the orcs. Sang-Soo smiled and looked at Sandow. Your will is as strong as steel, but with only your will, you are still far from success. Sandow's frown deepened. But Sang-Soo's next words dispelled his annoyance and impatience. Sang-Soo said, I will also go with you. With my necromancy, I can be of great help. Sandow's brows relaxed and revealed a strange look. He could not help but look at the necromancer in front of him with a new gaze. To be honest, there were also gaps within the Justice Pirates. Any group would exist. The necromancer Sang-Soo and the orc warrior Zongu were obviously antagonistic. Sandow did not expect that Sang-Soo would actually take such a risk for Zongu. Sang-Soo continued, even if the fact that we stole the treasure is discovered, it doesn't matter much. We have cleaned up the traces before. More importantly, I have confidence in the pearl foam. As long as they don't have the really important clues, just by using divination and prophecy, we have the pearl foam and are relatively safe. So, after some discussion, they arranged for Sandow and Sang-Soo to go to Spitfire City. ZD, Lan Zhao, and the others went to the dock to investigate. The young captain led the big guy and the others to temporarily guard outside the city, closest to the monster fish. If things went wrong, they would carry out rescue or reinforcement. If nothing unexpected happened, they would continue to move the supplies. The supplies purchased by ZD must be stored in a rented warehouse. For the Justice Pirates, every opportunity to resupply must be cherished. And these supplies had not been moved by half before. The night passed and dawn came. Sandow and Sang-Soo were the closest to Spitfire City, and they soon discovered the new situation. The gates of Spitfire City opened again. Sandow walked around, observed for a while, and came back to meet Sang-Soo. The main gate hasn't opened yet. That should be the passage to receive Tucker. But the other 3 subgates are open, and people have already begun to come in and out. Sang-Soo analyzed, this doesn't mean anything. It's possible that Spitfire City has never searched us, or it's possible that they have searched all night without success. At this moment, they are deliberately using this trick in an attempt to lure us out of the city to find more valuable clues. Let's wait a little longer. Sandow was a little impatient. Can't you use ghosts to investigate? Sang-Soo sighed. I do carry ghosts with me, but when I use spells, it will produce obvious magic power fluctuations that must be concealed with an alchemy array. But if I set up an array outside the city, it will be easy to be observed, and it will take a long time to set it up, and there is only 1 set of supplies left. Sandow had to be patient. He looked in the direction of the dock. Then let's wait. They were waiting for news from ZD. ZD, Lan Zhao, and the others were near the dock, waiting for Tucker's arrival. The Lord of Spitfire City was a senior legend. Chapter 395. ZD stood by the window and looked at the dock in the distance. After everyone saluted the Lord of Spitfire City, the welcome music sounded on the dock, and the atmosphere quickly warmed up. ZD narrowed her eyes slightly. She keenly observed that many passers-by were surprised by the appearance of the Lord of Spitfire City. But there were also a small number of people who were not surprised. It seems that the higher-ups of Spitfire City have already known that he will personally greet Tucker. ZD was slightly delighted. This discovery greatly improved the safety of Sang-Soo and Sandow. Tucker was as surprised as ZD. When his subordinate came to report urgently, Tucker was in the dining hall having breakfast with the Patriarch of 100 Needles. Hearing this news, Tucker was slightly taken aback and immediately ordered the relevant personnel to move out. Then he apologized to the Patriarch of Hundred Needles for not being able to continue eating. The Patriarch of Hundred Needles quickly expressed his understanding and flattered Tucker very naturally. After that, he asked Idong and Tucker to greet the Lord of Spitfire City. Tucker readily agreed. When the two walked out of the cabin together and came to the bow deck, on the front deck of the Steel Giant, a ceremonial team had gathered. The ceremonial team had just played the music and was about to proceed according to the normal aristocratic communication ceremony when they heard the voice of the Lord of Spitfire City. "Ha ha ha, Earl Tucker, welcome to Spitfire Island." The Lord of Spitfire City's voice was extremely loud, like thunder rumbling. The assistant on the side quickly raised his hand and stopped the ceremonial band with his eyes. Sure enough, the next moment Tucker bowed and replied, "Thank you for your service. I am in awe and trepidation. Today, I am honored to be able to visit Spitfire Island and see the Honorable Lord of Spitfire City." The Patriarch of Hundred Needles looked at Tucker beside him and couldn't help but show a touch of admiration. Tucker was not only a talented master alchemist, but he was also an excellent aristocrat. Although the unexpected appearance caught him off guard, he maintained the demeanor of an aristocrat from beginning to end. Tucker and the Lord of Spitfire City exchanged a few more words, and the Steel Giant really docked at the dock. Tucker, the Patriarch of Hundred Needles, and the others stepped off the ship and came to the Lord of Spitfire City. Tucker then introduced the Hundred Needles Patriarch to the Lord of Spitfire City. However, the Castellan of Spitfire City was obviously more interested in Tucker. Even though he knew the identity of the clan leader of the Hundred Needles clan, he just nodded at him and didn't take him seriously. However, at this moment, someone else cast a surprised look at the Hundred Needles clan leader. "Clan leader Baijin, why is he here?" At this moment, Zidi's eyes widened in shock. As if sensing her gaze, the Hundred Needles clan leader frowned slightly and glanced at the windowsill here. Zidi quickly hid behind the wall. Soon after, she felt her heartbeat quicken, and the pressure in her heart doubled. What happened? Why did clan leader Hundred Needles come with Tucker? Did the Hundred Needles family persuade Tucker to help him deal with the pirates who kidnapped his son? How likely is that? What price did the Hundred Needles clan pay? For a moment, Zidi's thoughts became extremely fast and chaotic. Although the Hundred Needles clan was in dire straits, Zidi never dared to underestimate it. Because of its past glory, there might be some heritage left behind. Damn it. If clan leader Hundred Needles and Tucker join forces, we will have to deal with a sanctuary mage. And this mage is also a master alchemist. The Castellan of Spitfire thinks highly of him and is more likely to help him. Thinking of Sha Bun and Tucker, ZD couldn't help but have a headache. Lan Zhao was also shocked by this situation. They discussed for a while and decided that ZD would leave first and quietly pass on the two messages as soon as possible. Lan Zhao continued to investigate the situation at the dock. The Castellan of Spitfire received Tucker and naturally wouldn't stay at the dock to chat. Soon, he invited Tucker to board the carriage. The Hundred Needles clan leader said goodbye to Tucker. Tucker didn't know the real intention of the Hundred Needles clan leader and thought he was going to other islands. Before leaving, he solemnly invited the Hundred Needles clan leader to visit his territory when he was free. Sandao and Sangsu soon received the news and ZD's guess. Did the Hundred Needles clan leader really invite Tucker? If so, he should try to hide this relationship and let the robbers and pirates despise him. Instead of openly going with Tucker, Sangsu analyzed. The necromancer's mood was very heavy. Sha Bun's trouble was still there, and Tucker was here again. Any one of them could crush the entire Justice Pirates into powder. In Spitfire City, the Justice Pirates were like walking on a wire rope, and they could fall into the abyss at any time. Instead of guessing here and there, it's better to go to the city first. Sandao couldn't help but urge. Excluding the unexpected situation of the Hundred Needles clan leader, the information that the Castellan of Spitfire City had prepared for a long time to welcome Tucker was good news for Sandow and Song-Su. According to the plan, Sandow would enter the city first, followed by Song-Su. The gate they chose was of course not the main gate, which had been blocked. But because of this, the flow of people in and out of the other three gates increased greatly. Sandow and Song-Su were secretly nervous and calmly passed through the gate. No one checked on them. They quickly and smoothly approached the caravan's residence. But unlike the last time, they didn't dare to go too deep this time, but kept a distance. It was another hotel. After choosing a room, Song-Su immediately set up an alchemy array, while Sandow was responsible for keeping watch and guarding. After the array was activated, Song-Su began to cast undead spells and released ghosts. The three ghosts circled around before splitting into three and sneaking into the caravan's residence. The defense of the caravan's residence was obviously much sparser than before. This made Song-Su more vigilant. Finally, a ghost successfully sneaked into the previous tent, only to find that there were significantly fewer treasure chests in the tent. What's going on? There are fewer treasure chests and fewer guards. Something must have happened. Song-Su began to take the risk and used the ghosts to inspect the caravan's residence. After a while, Song-Su's face was slightly pale as he said to Sandow, "Sha Bun is also gone." In order to confirm the situation, next, I plan to use undead spells to pry open the mouth of a giant servant in the caravan. But Sandow shook his head. Wait first. It's too troublesome for you to do this, it will take a long time. We have to get closer to the caravan's residence than the last time, and even sneak in. I'll go directly to the streets to investigate. Trust me, Song-Su. I used to be a mercenary group leader. The current situation gives me a feeling. Sha Bun, treasure chests, and guards have all disappeared. They might not be secretly tracking us. Song-Su was a little hesitant. Then you'll directly expose yourself. Sandow didn't care about him anymore. He turned around and left. He used his skillful conversational skills and directly asked the citizens living nearby. Song-Su had been providing support from the shadows. Sandow returned with a grave expression. There's good news and bad news. The good news is that Sha Bun and those gold-level giant guards of the caravan did not track us down. They don't seem to have discovered that the alchemy puppet was stolen. The bad news is that they went to meet Jia. When they walked out of the caravan's residence, they were very high-profile and attracted a lot of attention. Song-Su's heart sank when he heard this. Jia is Sha Bun's marriage partner. They took away a portion of the treasure chests. It should be a greeting gift. This can greatly demonstrate the financial resources of the Sha Huang clan, as well as the sincerity of Sha Bun and the others for this marriage. If Sha Bun discovered that the alchemy puppet was stolen, then he would definitely let Jia know. At that time, our space for negotiation with them would be greatly reduced. Sandow nodded and echoed, and it might even cause Jia to take the initiative to help. At that time, we'll have to deal with Sha Bun and the entire Fire Spray City. Sigh. Song-Su sighed helplessly. Maybe we'll have to add another Tucker. Sandow gritted his teeth. I know the location. Sha Bun and his group walked into a tavern in a high-profile manner. We should hurry over and see if there's a chance. Jia was also a saint, and the two of them were only black iron. This was Jia's headquarters. Would there be a chance? Song-Su and Sandow both had bitter expressions. They knew that the hope was slim, but they had no choice but to bite the bullet and try their luck. Chapter 396. After discovering the situation, Sandow and Song-Su hurriedly walked out of their hiding place and headed towards the target tavern. As a result, when the two of them arrived near the target location, they couldn't get any closer. The street where the target tavern was located was firmly guarded by a large number of guards. Among these guards, there were sand giants, as well as the giant city guards of Spitfire City. Among them, there were several gold rank leaders. Whether it was Jianya or Sha Bun, they were all high-ranking existences in the giant race. Sandow lowered his head and tried to sneak into a corner of the street, but he was immediately discovered. A giant guard angrily shouted, "Get out of the way, green bug!" Sandow pretended to be frightened and hurriedly fled. After this probing, Song-Su and Sandow immediately understood. There were not only a large number of guards near the tavern, but also a strict magic surveillance. They wanted to disrupt the meeting as much as possible, but in the end, they couldn't even enter the tavern. Sandow's face was ashen. The difference in strength between us and them is too big. Song-Su narrowed his eyes and whispered, "I can try to sneak in with my ghosts." "Didn't you only bring one set of materials?" Sandow was puzzled, but a trace of hope appeared on his face again. Song-Su sighed. "To be precise, we only have one set in our treasury, and we just used it. To be able to resist the surveillance of Spitfire City with such magic fluctuations, and to be able to set up this alchemy array by outsiders like Song-Su and ZD, it naturally had a huge price to pay in other aspects. This price was some very rare alchemy materials. Even in Spitfire City, they were very rare. ZD didn't even try to collect them, because the price was too high. But Song-Su continued, "That alchemy array hasn't been dismantled yet, we should rejoice. This tavern should be within a kilometer from the location of the array. My ghosts can float further away, but if I want to control them to carry out a precise investigation, this distance is the limit." Sandow was overjoyed. The two of them hurried back, and the necromancer cast another spell. The three ghosts moved out again, successfully passing through the guards and a set of strict detection methods, and finally entered the tavern. There were several gold-rank giant guards guarding the tavern's entrance, guarding it loyally. Inside the tavern, there were only two people involved. They were Sha Bun and Jia. Sha Chuan's skin was yellowish, and his hair was still tied in a dirty braid. However, it was obvious that he had dressed up today. His clothes were gorgeous, and his upper body was covered in leather armor, revealing his muscular arms. On his left arm was a jade armband with golden edges. As for Tianyao, she was the same as the city lord of Fire Spray City. She also had red skin, and her hair was scattered randomly. There were two small spiral horns on her head. She seemed to have tattoos. Looking at her exposed skin, there were straight and crisscrossed black lines. The black lines drew rectangles that were stacked on top of each other. They were like square bricks. Song-Su saw the two of them through the ghosts. Although his alchemy talent was lacking, his vision was very good. He immediately saw that the brick-like tattoos on Tianya's body were no small matter. They contained powerful and profound alchemy mysteries. Tianya and Sha Chuan had obviously been talking for a while. Sha Chuan had a smile on his face, but Tianya was lying on her back with her arms crossed, looking out the window. The seat she chose was very good. Through the window, she could see the main city gate. The view was very good. Sha Chuan spoke for a while, and seeing Tianya's absent-minded look, he couldn't help but smile. He pretended to be casual and said, "Oh right, I brought you some small gifts for our first meeting." "Men!" Sha Chuan shouted at the tavern's entrance. Thus, the tavern's door was opened. A yellow giant guard carried a large pile of treasure chests into the tavern. Of course, for safety, the two gold rank commanders of the city guards of Fire Spray City immediately followed him in. "Beautiful Miss Tianya, let us play a little game." Sha Chuan pointed at the treasure chests. "There are different treasures in the chests here. Please choose any three. The three you choose will be my gift to you." Hearing this, Tianya finally turned her gaze from the window to Sha Chuan. As the next successor of the Yellow Sand tribe, Sha Chuan was very attentive to this marriage. He also spent a lot of effort to please Tianya. "Three gifts, this seems to be a custom of your side. It's related to a legend. Tianya said. That's right, it's the story of the Divine King's 3 treasures. So, just like in the story, there's also a grand prize here. Its value far surpasses the other treasures. Sha Chuan laughed and continued, I can reveal a little more. This is a saint-level treasure. It's very helpful in the field of alchemy. Tianya couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. Interesting. Then, I'll choose this one. She casually pointed and picked the one at the top of the pile of treasure chests. When the treasure chest opened, there was a bottle of wine inside. Miss Tianya's luck is not bad. This is a saint-level wine, just right for you. As he spoke, Sha Chuan took out a wine jar from the treasure chest and opened the cork. Tianya immediately smelled a wine fragrance that was similar to the fragrance of flowers, but much stronger than flowers. She looked through the mouth of the bottle and saw that the wine inside was orange-red, emitting a dragon's breath. This is dragon's blood sand thorn wine, a specialty of my tribe. Sha Chuan signaled with his eyes, and immediately, a subordinate took out a wine cup. Sha Chuan poured the wine and continued, To brew this magic wine, you must have 2 main alchemy ingredients. One is the sand thorn, a type of shrub that grows in the desert. There are only a bunch of short shrubs above the sand, but under the sand there are extremely luxuriant, like the complex roots of ancient trees. After generations of careful cultivation by our yellow sand tribe, we now have 3 saint-level sand thorns and 26 gold-level sand thorns. Other than the sand thorn, there must be another main ingredient. I'm sure Miss Tianya has already guessed it. Tianya nodded slightly. Smelling this, I know that the main ingredient must be dragon's blood. Sha Chuan had already filled a cup of wine. After putting down the wine bottle, he clapped his hands lightly, his face full of sincere praise. As expected of Miss Tianya, your attainments in alchemy are so profound. I was fortunate enough to catch a glimpse of the strength of a noble tribe leader from you. What an honor! Please. Sha Chuan gestured with his hand. Tianya held up the wine cup, smelled it first, then dipped her fingers into the wine cup, dipped them in the wine, and pulled them out. In front of Sha Chuan, she rubbed her thick fingers together. During this process, she emitted magic power fluctuations, and her hands, from inside to outside, emitted bright 5-colored rays of light. The rays of light seeped into the wine, and the wine quickly evaporated. The air was immediately filled with the stench of feces. Sha Chuan's smile froze slightly. Then, Tianya suddenly stuck out her tongue. Her tongue was clearly modified by alchemy. It stretched out about 20 centimeters, reaching the top of the wine cup. The tip of her tongue reached into the wine, and then scooped up a spoonful of wine like a spoon. Then, her tongue retracted, and Tianya closed her big mouth. Bang bang, gurgle gurgle, sizzle. A series of strange sounds came from her mouth. At first, it was like a miniature explosion, then the sound of water boiling, and finally the sound of air rushing through a small hole. Finally, Tianya opened her big mouth, and her tongue stuck out again. But the surface of her tongue had already turned black, as if it had just been roasted by fire. The wine from before had already condensed into a layer of black powder, like charcoal powder. Pa 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 pa. Tianya kept spitting out the black powder. The black powder was spat out on the ground, and some even spat on Sha Chuan's feet. It's really good wine. After spitting it out, Tianya stretched out her big palm, rudely wiped her mouth, and smiled at Sha Chuan. Sha Chuan also smiled, but his expression was much stiffer than before. Tianya continued, This kind of wine can increase fire-type do qi. If it's diluted, it can even help replenish the body of a young giant. Because many giants lack nutrition during their growth, they grow short and don't have enough strength, and feel inferior for their whole lives. You don't seem to be as tall as me. Tianya seemed to have just discovered this problem. Sha Chuan. Chapter 397. Cough, cough. Shah Bun was startled by Tianya's difficulties. He coughed twice and turned to his subordinates. All of you leave. His subordinates left with an indignant expression. It was not as if the Sand Yellow clan did not have a legendary existence. This was also an important factor that prompted the Lord of Spitfire City to take the initiative to invite Shah Bun. Shah Bun continued, "Miss Tianya, pick the next one." He ignored Tianya's mockery and showed a good demeanor. Tianya opened the second treasure chest. Inside was a model of a ship. But as long as one looked carefully, they would find that in many subtle aspects, this model ship was still very different from a normal ship. Tianya's pupils shrank slightly, revealing a hint of curiosity. "This is a magic ship? Your eyes are as bright as a torch." Shah Bun praised and reached out to take out the ship model. He reached out and stroked the ship model, revealing a look of reminiscence on his face. "I didn't expect you to choose this ship. I put this in deliberately. As you can see, it is a magic ship. It is not a ship, but a sand ship, able to sail in the desert. Although its size is not huge, and its carrying capacity is not high, it cannot be compared to a normal ship. But it was my favorite toy when I was young. When I grew up to be a teenager, my father told me how to open this sand ship. I often drove this sand ship, speeding in the vast and boundless sea of sand. It can be said that it accompanied me as I grew up, and to me, it has a special meaning." At this point, Shah Bun handed the sand ship to Tianya. Tianya opened her hands and took it. She first sensed the weight of the ship. It was very light. This meant that this sand ship, as an alchemy item, must have a large number of magic runes to reduce its weight. It was even very likely that it was an alchemy array formed by a large number of runes. Her pupils emitted a dazzling white light. Under the light, the surface of the sand ship became faintly transparent. Tianya immediately saw a complete set of formations. The complexity of the formations made her feel a little dizzy at first glance. The sand boat's grade wasn't low. It was a gold-grade magic boat. The person who created it was ingenious, using large-scale reduction formations and weight control runes. When the seal on the sand boat was removed, it could quickly return to its original size and weight. When the sand boat turned into a model, not only did it shrink in size, but its weight also decreased drastically. At the same time, its aura was restrained to the extreme, almost no different from an ordinary item. The structure of this sand boat is exquisite, but it also has flaws. The biggest flaw was that although it used multiple arrays, they were too complicated. The space that can be used in other aspects is not large. The most important manifestation is in the aspect of power. Brick observed for a while and commented. However, the creator must have noticed the flaws of this magical ship, so he made other arrangements at the front of the sand boat. "Does your ship still have auxiliary power? It should be some kind of beast or alchemy item that can pull sand boats." Whether it was the alchemy tongue or the current alchemy eyes, they were all her alchemy method. Her comments were comprehensive and insightful, reflecting her strong attainments in alchemy. Shah Zun couldn't help but clap and nodded. "Miss Tianya, your comments hit my heart. The bigger I get, the slower I feel this sand boat is. It does need auxiliary power. Without auxiliary power, it can't run fast. This power is the Barracuda beast." Tianya nodded slightly, listening very seriously. She knew about the Barracuda beast. It was a magical beast that was more common in the desert. Its body was like a sailfish and a hairtail, and it was good at shuttling under the sand. Its body contained an extremely weak dragon blood, belonging to a low-level dragon beast. Shah Zun said, "The Barracuda beast is a magical beast that can be tamed. As long as there are giant groups living in the desert, they will usually tame it. Once the Barracuda beast is successfully tamed, it will be very loyal to its master, willing to fight for its master, even to death. It is equivalent to the hunting dogs domesticated by human nobles. When I was a child, I lacked playmates. The one that accompanied me the most was a barracuda beast that my father tamed. It was already very old. It was warm and slow, letting me play on it as a child. It died when I was 6 years old. That was the saddest thing in my childhood. Even if my father found me other new barracuda beasts, I didn't feel happy, let alone forget it. When I was young, I gradually disliked the original speed of the boat, and began to catch barracuda beasts in the desert myself. Often, I would spend a lot of effort to catch them alive. Then, I would tame them myself. They never let me down, are very loyal, and obey my orders. It is best to collect 16 barracuda beasts and form a herd of beasts to pull the boat. This way, the sand boat can run the fastest. Although the sand boat can provide 20 barracuda beasts to pull at the same time, 20 is too many. It will be very inconvenient to turn, and even capsize when turning because the speed is too fast. On the contrary, in terms of speed, 20 is about the same as 16. More than 16, the space between the barracuda beasts is very narrow. When pulling the sand boat, they often interfere with each other. Obviously, the alchemist who designed this sand boat didn't have much research in beast taming. At this point, Sha Bun grinned at Zhuya. This is my experience. I often controlled the sand boat and drove the school of barracudas in the desert, crossing sand dunes after sand dunes. I raised my head and laughed in the furious sandstorm, allowing the sand to hit my chest and my face. Sha Bun's eyes lit up when he said this. He naturally puffed out his chest and fell into a beautiful memory. No wonder you have pits on your face. Zhuya suddenly said. Huh! Sha Bun subconsciously touched his face. His face was indeed full of pits, but wasn't this normal? Giants usually had bad skin, especially the sand-yellow tribe that lived in the desert all year round. Is it delicious? Zhuya asked again. What? Sha Bun didn't react for a while. Zhuya smiled. I mean, is the meat of the barracuda beasts delicious? The smile on Sha Bun's face became stiff. Zhuya asked again. You said you drove the boat in the sandstorm and laughed. The wind and sand didn't fill your mouth? You like to drink the wind and eat the sand? Sha Bun. Chapter 398. Cough cough. Facing Shiya's sarcasm, Sha Zhan could only change the topic again. Miss Shiya, please choose the third one. However, according to our customs, the third one is also the last one. You didn't choose the most valuable treasure chest for the previous two. Now you have one more chance. Speaking up to this point, Sha Zhan pondered for a moment and revealed a little. This treasure itself is at the saint level. To me, it's not very useful. But to you, and even to the aristocratic clan leader, it's extremely helpful. The creator of this treasure is Great Grandmaster Qiao Fu. Hearing Qiao Fu's name, Shiya's expression changed, and her eyes revealed a solemn expression. She originally wanted to choose directly, but now she was somewhat hesitant. To be honest, she didn't care about what treasure she could get. But if she could help the Lord of Spitfire City, Shiya couldn't help but feel a rush of excitement. She looked at the pile of treasure chests and muttered, I'm a little curious, are there any other hints? This was obviously the best time to curry favor with Shiya. But Sha Zhan revealed a solemn expression for the first time in this meeting. He slowly shook his head. I'm sorry. The story of the Divine King's 3 treasures is not just a story, but also a part of our customs and belief. Miss Shiya should also know this story. If you know what's hidden in the treasure chest beforehand, then what's the point of choosing? 4 things that are not fated, you can't force it. Just like my marriage with you. The last sentence caused a strange expression to appear on Jiya's face. Since the meeting, she had been deliberately making things difficult and sarcastic. This attitude already showed her thoughts on this marriage. Sha Zhan's words revealed that he was already mentally prepared for the failure of this marriage. This immediately made Shiya feel a little more relaxed, and for the first time, she found Shah Jahan pleasing to the eye. "Alright, then I'll choose this one." She didn't hesitate and randomly chose a treasure chest. There was no difference between the appearance of the treasure chest. Of course, there might be flaws, but she needed to use all her strength to investigate. Just like how she tasted the wine with her tongue and used the strange light in her eyes to see through the sand boat model. These were all her alchemy. But just as Shah Bun had said, this selection was not a game, nor was it purely to curry favor with Zuya. It also contained the customs and beliefs of the Sha Huang tribe. Especially when it came to faith, it was not allowed to be slandered. Therefore, if Zuya were to use alchemy to check the truth of the treasure chest like before, then she would be offending Shah Bun and even the Sha Huang clan. Although Zuya was unwilling to have a marriage alliance, she did not want to make enemies out of nothing and cause trouble for her most respected and beloved lord of Fire Spray City. The last treasure chest was opened. Inside was a piece of paper and a pen. There was no need for Shah Bun to explain. Zuya was already disappointed. She could see that although this was an alchemy treasure, it was definitely not the work of Qiao Fu. Unfortunately, young Miss Jianya, you didn't choose that treasure in the end. Sha Chuan shook his head with a sincere expression. It's not that I don't want to help you. Actually, I don't know the difference between these boxes, or what's inside them. The one who keeps these treasure chests is one of our elders. Although his strength has fallen to gold rank, under his strict supervision, I, the only future successor, cannot violate the rules. But, at this point, Shah Bun changed the topic again. Although this treasure chest does not contain the most valuable treasure, it is still very precious. It can even be said that it is more suitable for us than that treasure. This piece of paper is pitch black inside and out. It is the skin of a legendary black scribble. And this white pen, according to the information left behind by the creator, is called a signal pen. The black paper and the white pen need to be used together to display the power of this set of alchemy items. This was accidentally discovered by the warriors of my tribe during an exploration of ruins. The specific way to use it is to tear this piece of black paper into two halves and separate them into two places. As long as one side uses the signal pen to write on one half of the black paper, then the words on the other half of the black paper will appear. We have yet to measure the current limit of communication. Let's put it this way, even if we are separated by a vast ocean, you are on the fire-breathing island, and I am on the frost continent, we can still communicate through this piece of paper. The time difference is almost zero, and the content is not distorted. As far as I know, the current information transmission of the Imperial Navy, through the most advanced magic communication device, the time difference is about half a day to a day. Jia nodded slightly. What you are referring to is the usual communication method of the Imperial Navy. Of course, they also have emergency communication methods, similar to this one, which cannot be used often. Jia picked up the black paper and began to use alchemy to study it again. After a while, she had results. The black scribble is a magical beast of the shadow plane. The reason why this alchemy item can be transmitted quickly is because of the shadow plane. It is equivalent to taking a detour, so it can do things that conventional advanced communication devices can't do at the smallest cost. Because of this, if someone discovers its operating principle, they will target it through the shadow plane. Once targeted, this alchemy item will easily lose its effectiveness, and it may even transmit false information. These words made the smile on Shah Bun's face stiffen again. But Jia changed the topic. It uses biological alchemy, and now in this field, the world's best at it should be the war dealers. This is not the field that Teacher and I are good at. If we give this to Teacher, perhaps it can give her some inspiration and ideas. Shah Bun laughed and looked deeply at Jia. If this treasure can bring some help to the Lord of Fire-Breathing City, that would be the best, and it would also be our honor. However, I hope that we can use this treasure to transmit information to each other. Jia frowned immediately. Shah Bun spread out his hands and smiled. Even if our marriage fails, it doesn't mean that we can't cooperate, right? We can also be friends. Between friends, there is nothing strange about communicating through letters, right? Jia's frown deepened. Shah Bun sighed. Actually, Miss Jia, you don't have to do this. My caravan has been stationed in Fire-Breathing City for some time, and we have not been idle during this time. The Lord of Fire-Breathing City has invited many outstanding giants, but they have all failed in their attempts to marry you. Among them, there are even some with better conditions than me. You don't like these people, so I have long been prepared for failure. As for writing letters and communicating with each other, it is not that I want to continue pestering you. It is because you and I have a lot of room for cooperation, and we can support each other as excellent allies. Fire-Breathing City is not big and can even be said to be weak. Just like my tribe, we should be close and help each other. Jia could not help but raise her eyebrows and sneered. You say that my Fire-Breathing City is weak? Of course. Shah Bun raised his index finger. There is a very important point. Strength and weakness are relative. Fire-Breathing City has the Lord, Miss Jia, and other outstanding giants. Compared to the majority of forces, it is upper class. But compared to the Sacred Empire, of course it is weak. Jia sneered again. The Empire is the strongest force in the origin world, no one can compare to it. That's right. Shah Bun retracted his hand and put it on his knee, straightening his back. It is because we are weak that we need to save ourselves. In my opinion, your tribe's foundation in Fire-Breathing City is already in danger, and if you don't take advantage of this last opportunity to find a way out, your tribe's future will be bleak. Then the future of the nobles will be bleak, and it is possible that they will reach the end of their road. Jia's face became ugly. You are just trying to scare me. Of course not. Shah Bun's tone became heavier, changing his previous gentle attitude. His body became extremely serious, and his gaze was dignified as he stared at Jia. I know the history of your tribe very well, and it was once very glorious. In the Red Earth Plateau there was even the embryonic form of a kingdom. But unfortunately, before the founding of the kingdom, you encountered the expansion of the Sacred Empire at the crucial moment. You are the last and largest giant tribe in the Sacred Continent. Facing the incomparably powerful empire, you can only choose to rely on them. Resistance will be destroyed and escape will be captured. The Emperor's gaze is everywhere. Jia retorted, at that time, we were about to engage in a national war. It was the Xingming Emperor who came in person and discussed with the elders of my tribe. After paying a certain price, we agreed to the alliance proposed by the Xingming Emperor. Since then, our tribe has become an ally of the Sacred Empire. Ally? Shah Bun showed a sarcastic smile. Then how does the Empire treat its allies? The vast and rich Red Earth Plateau was once the home of the nobles. Then what about now? The Red Earth Plateau is full of people, and all of them are human towns. And what about the nobles? Why are they huddled on this island? This time, it was Jia's turn to be silent. Chapter 399. Seeing the silent Jia, Shah Bun continued. The empire used its military power to conquer its enemies. At the same time, it used its brilliant political skills to deal with its allies. Once, the Red Earth Plateau was your home, almost all of it was your land. But after hundreds of years of evolution, the Empire used various names and ingenious methods to divide the Red Earth Plateau. There are rich minerals there. How much do you have now? Jia snorted and stared at Shah Bun. Are you trying to sow discord between my race and the Empire? Shah Bun quickly shook his head. I'm just telling the truth. Even if we don't talk about you and the Red Earth Plateau, let's talk about the southern nobles in the past 100 years. The empire's final battle to unify the sacred continent attracted many southern nobles. How did the empire deal with these people who surrendered? Look, none of them are in a good situation. For example, the Hundred Needles family. They used to be one of the leaders of the southern nobles and were prominent for a time. And now? Their only remaining territory is about to be lost. Not long ago, the only heir of this family even had a shipwreck. Ridiculous, right? According to intelligence, this heir is said to have joined the Temple Knights and is a Temple Knight who believes in the Xingming Emperor. If the Empire treats humans like this, how does it treat us giants? Sha Bun's question made Ji Ya's expression more and more ugly. He then changed the topic and began to praise the Lord of Spitfire City. To be honest, I admire the Lord of Spitfire City very much. Back then, the demon army came out of hell and ravaged the origin world. The huge catastrophe made all the races unite and fight together. The wave of large-scale counterattack made the demons flee in all directions. The Lord of Spitfire City volunteered to sacrifice herself and go to Spitfire Island to guard the weak space here. It was this opportunity that allowed you to jump out of the trap of the Red Earth Plateau. Under great pressure, the Lord of Spitfire City brought her people to live on Spitfire Island and multiplied to this day. If the situation had been allowed to develop, your entire race would have probably died on the Red Earth Plateau. The Empire's methods and schemes are endless. What's funny is that it is said that many giants in the race opposed her, thinking that she became the Empire's lackey. Many giants were willing to stay on the Red Earth Plateau. And now? Where are the giants left on the Red Earth Plateau? Everything proves that the City Lord is so far-sighted. She's a legendary level expert, a master alchemist, but at the same time, she's an excellent leader with great foresight. Because of her existence, the nobles can temporarily treat Fire Spray Island as their home. Otherwise, I'm afraid your situation will be even more miserable than the Hundred Needles clan. Zhu Yi remained silent. The Lord of Spitfire City was the person she respected the most. Sha Bun's praise resonated with her, but at the same time, the danger and crisis he described made her heart heavy. Although Cui Yi devoted almost all his energy to alchemy, he was smart and not stupid. He was not ignorant about the current situation. So, Sha Chuan took a deep breath, his expression extremely sincere. Even if you don't want to marry me, I will regret it, but I will not force you. I don't have the ability to force you. However, as a fellow giant, I would like to sincerely advise you, Miss Zuya. Please treat the marriage seriously. Even if you are disgusted or even disgusted by it, please think about your own tribe. Even if you don't think about your tribe, think about the City Lord. Doesn't the City Lord know that you are against the marriage? But why does she have to organize it again and again? She has been leading the giant tribe on Fire Spray Island. This is the last flame of the giant descendants of the Red Earth Plateau. Please trust her and believe in your leader. These words were like a heavy hammer, fiercely pounding on Zhu Ya's heart. Zhu Ya couldn't help but change her expression clearly wavering. Sha Chuan continued to strike while the iron was hot. I said before that Fire Spray Island is in a precarious situation. This is not nonsense, nor is it an alarmist talk. The Xingming Emperor has set off a hurricane of an era. He controls the entire Xingming Empire and has placed his weapon on the neck of the beastmen. The Xingming continent is attacking the wilderness continent, and the humans are invading the beastmen. This is bound to be a huge battle. Both sides are preparing for a great war. This kind of great war is not just one, it is likely to be 2 or 3. The Xingming continent is on an expedition, and the beastmen are fighting on their home ground. The Empire must ensure the safety of the sea transportation line. The Empire needs it to continue to transport troops and food. This is the lifeline of the Empire. And Fire Spray Island's geographical location is too important. It is not close to the wilderness continent, but it is also far away from the Xingming continent. It is the most important pillar of the sea transportation line. If the beastmen want to defeat the Empire, they will attack and even destroy the transportation line, which will be a great interference and blow to the Empire. They will definitely think of ways to attack here and destroy Fire Spray Island. And what about the Xingming Empire? Those high and mighty Grand Dukes, the living gods, will not know the importance of the transportation line. Will they still leave Fire Spray Island in the hands of the giants? Hand over the lifeline of the entire Xingming Empire to the outsiders? So, they will definitely make a move on Fire Spray Island. I don't know what method the Empire will use, but I am sure that they have been preparing for it for a long time. The Empire will definitely make a move earlier than the Beastmen. Once they make a move, what will happen to Fire Spray Island? Can you defend it? Brick's face was pale. She stared into Sha Bun's eyes and gritted her teeth. So, you said so much just to remind me that this marriage is very likely a way out for our race? So, the marriage between you and me is necessary. Sha Bun sighed. Miss Brick, please don't be angry with me. Because I am not forcing you on this matter. The essence and truth of this matter is that the Empire is forcing your entire race, and even the beastmen of the entire wilderness continent. At this moment, you and I are sitting here, facing each other, talking for the first time. It is not you and me who are pushing for this. We are geniuses, saints, powerhouses, but in front of the Empire, we are still so weak that we are not worth mentioning. We can only be swept away by the hurricane of this era, unable to control ourselves. Brick lowered her head and fell into a long silence. After a long while, she finally spoke. Her voice was a little hoarse. What about you? She asked Sha Bun. You are right. For a long time, I have been immersed in the field of alchemy and paid little attention to the outside world. Even if I had a bad feeling about the future, I did not delve into it to this extent. Every time I am worried, I will think of the master of the city. Today, thank you for your guidance. However, what you said is nothing more than to achieve the purpose of your marriage. As a member of Fire Spray City, the descendants of the giants of the Red Earth Plateau, we are indeed in danger. What about you? The Sand Yellow tribe is far away in the Frost continent. Why did you come all the way here to marry us? Sha Bun laughed. Ha! His eyes shone. Miss Brick, do you know when the sand boat is the fastest? Without waiting for Brick to answer, he continued, it is in the fierce wind. There are often opportunities in danger. Only in the fierce sandstorm can the best barracuda beasts be caught. Whenever a hurricane strikes, yellow sand flutters all over the sky, and sand dunes collapse, the underground barracuda beasts will be alarmed and begin to run around. They are extremely fast, and in front of the natural disaster, they squeeze out every bit of strength in their bodies, bursting out the most dazzling brilliance in their lives. In order to survive, they twist their bodies and can even jump up, piercing the wind and sand curtain like sharp arrows. They are simply riding the wind. If I want to catch the best barracuda beasts, I will directly catch those that jump the highest. Speaking of this, Sha Bun paused, revealing a leisurely look. Do you know? I like to see the magnificent scene of those barracuda beasts jumping in the sandstorm like flying. The barracuda beasts themselves are at most silver level. They can't fly at all, and their body structure is like this. Speaking of which, they are only in the middle and lower levels of the desert food chain. However, at that moment, when life and death are at stake, when the world is vast and mighty, they seem to be flying in the air, unwilling to accept their established bloodline, unwilling to accept the fate of death, and leap with all their might. I think, at that moment, they have surpassed themselves, the limits of their race, and even fate. Speaking of this, Sha Bun covered his heart, not looking at Chianya in front of him, but turned to the window, looking at the distant sky and sea. His voice also became a little hoarse. Although I have the superior bloodline of the Sand Yellow clan, I have reached my limit now. Countless times I have tossed and turned, unable to sleep, alone, lying in the desert, looking at the stars in the night sky. My cultivation has not improved, and it is almost impossible to move an inch. Genius? It is only to a certain extent. Chianya, you should be like this too. But you have the field of alchemy for you to continue exploring. Can your strength continue to increase? The holy domain is our limit. This is the concentration of our bloodline, and it cannot be changed. And the Sand Yellow clan, although the overlord of the region and occupies a lot of resources, has reached its limit. This is the limit of the entire clan. Just like the barracuda beasts, they can't fly. But I am not reconciled. The barracuda beasts can leap with all their might, and I have to fight with all my strength. The gale raised by the sacred empire was my gale. Even if in the end I fall to the ground and die in the sandstorm, I am willing. Because I have tried my best, jumped with all my strength, and laughed heartily. Indeed, laughing in the sandstorm, the wind and sand will pour into my mouth, but I am in a good mood. Chapter 400. This guy. Brick looked at Shah Bun with a strange expression on her face. It was only at this moment that she truly sized up the male giant in front of her. At this moment, Shah Bun's serious, fascinated, and fanatical expression was emitting his unique personal charm. Thinking back to his words, Brick's heart also resonated with him. Yes, she was the same as Shah Bun. They were both geniuses in people's eyes, the darlings of fate. However, the concentration of their bloodline made them successful, but also limited them. When they reached their current level, they had all reached the limit of their bloodline and touched the ceiling. Their cultivation, which had once advanced rapidly, seemed to have died on the spot at this point. Moving was like moving a mountain. Depression, despair, unwillingness. When mortals looked up to transcendent being, they would have all kinds of negative emotions. When low-level transcendent beings looked up to high-level transcendent beings, they would also have these emotions. When high-level transcendent beings reached the limit of their lives, their cultivation path would suddenly come to an end, and they would also have these emotions. Moreover, these emotions were even stronger because of their previous carefree and glorious experiences, because of the contrast between before and after. Brick threw her entire body and mind into the field of alchemy to release these negative emotions. Shah Bun, on the other hand, was ambitious and wanted to fight for his life in the hurricane of the era. The sound of people coming in from outside the window became noisy. The main city gate opened wide, and the welcoming team played music. This movement attracted the attention of Brick and Shah Bun. The two of them looked into the distance and saw the legendary Lord of Spitting Fire City leading the graceful Tucker into Spitting Fire City. On both sides of the street, apart from the ceremonial team, there were elite guards, as well as onlookers and cheering citizens. Looking at Tucker, who had a smile on his face and a perfect combination of the demeanor of a noble and a mage, Shah Bun and Brick couldn't help but frown. Brick protested for the Lord of Spitting Fire City. The Lord of Spitting Fire City was the existence she respected and loved the most. Now, he was actually welcoming a saint as a legend. What did he, Tucker, have to do? Therefore, she had a natural dislike for Tucker. Shah Bun, on the other hand, was cautious and vigilant. Those who are not of our race must have different hearts. This sentence was not only circulated among humans, but also among dragons, giants, elves, dwarves, orcs, and so on. The human race was the most powerful race and the biggest threat to the other races. The Xingming Emperor's powerful battle prowess and illustrious battle achievements shocked everyone. At this moment, Jieya felt how insignificant and weak he was from the bottom of his heart. She had been discovered since she was very young. She had been nurtured by the Lord of Spitfire City, who had taught her countless times and led her into the field of alchemy. Jie did not have a deep impression of the Red Earth Plateau, but she had a deep attachment to the fire-breathing island and a strong feeling for her home. Because of the protection of the legendary champion and the trust and support of the race, the environment in which Brick grew up was very safe, even comfortable. The entire journey was smooth sailing. Ever since she was young, she had been practicing magic and meditating diligently. After coming into contact with alchemy, every day was a race against time to work and rest, trying to absorb every bit of knowledge. Cultivation and more cultivation. Study, continue to study. Perhaps the fact that her cultivation base had stagnated after entering the Saint Domain was the greatest setback she had ever suffered in her life. In order to get rid of those negative emotions, she devoted herself to exploring the field of alchemy. Which girl didn't yearn for love? As a giant, Jie was also a young girl. In her free time, she would read many novels and had expectations and yearnings for her love. Why can't we always be peaceful? Why is there a war? Why does the Empire not hesitate to go on an expedition? Why can't we live peacefully like this? Why does it have to interfere with our lives? We live on the fire-breathing island and never bully the weak or do evil things. Chaotic thoughts floated in her heart. Jie looked at the tall city gate, the noisy citizens, and Tucker, whose physique and life aura were obviously weaker than the Lord of Spitfire City, but at this moment they were communicating with each other as equals. Chui also felt a wave of power. Sha Bun saw the hurricane covering the sky and the earth, about to sweep through the sky. Jie smelled the terrifying humidity, and the surging tsunami was about to arrive. Under the crushing of the general trend, the small fire-breathing island was in danger. Today's conversation with Sha Bun was like a key that opened the window of her heart. Before this, it wasn't that she didn't feel all kinds of signs, but she had never really looked at it. So I have been running away. Just like how I exiled myself to the field of alchemy to escape the pain and despair of my stagnant cultivation. From this point of view, Sha Bun is much stronger than me. Jie's heart was also filled with mixed feelings about Sha Bun. She was a giant girl and had a pure and beautiful yearning for love like a swan. But now she was like a toad, which made her disappointed and disgusted. But at this moment, Jie, whose mentality had changed, was no longer a stubborn rejection. She opened her mouth and finally looked at Sha Bun with a hesitant expression. You are indeed different. I don't know how you fight. When will you come to the arena? Sha Bun was stunned. As far as he knew, this was the custom of the giants of the Red Earth Plateau. Between male and female giants, if they wanted to obtain recognition and a breakthrough in their relationship, they must first compete with each other. If the pursuer lost, he would naturally have no face or chance to get close to them. It's my honor. In the battle with Miss Chia, I will definitely do my best. Sha Chuan did not conceal the joy in his heart. He could not help but stand up and salute. That's it. Jie stood up and was about to leave. Please wait a moment. Sha Bun suddenly spoke and took out an item from his bosom and offered it with both hands. This is my gift, a personal gift. A ring. To be more precise, it was a thumb ring. But Jie's eyes were unique and immediately recognized it. This is the first fist ring. It is the head of the 5 fist rings. Gather all 5 fist rings and combine them to form the legendary glove, so Tuesday, of course, one can also use it alone, but the transformed glove's grade will be lowered to the sacred level. The first fist ring, one of the components of the legendary glove. Jie did not choose the sacred level alchemy puppet, but Sha Bun gave her another treasure in the end. As a chi cultivator, Sha Bun could use this fist ring himself, and it was one of the components of a legendary weapon, which was very valuable. But now, he gave it to Jie as a gift, which showed his sincerity. As far as I know, the current owner of the first fist ring is the Navy's Vice Admiral Gongdu. Jie sized up Sha Bun with deep meaning. Sha Bun smiled. Gongdu is already dead, I killed him. Jie could not help but raise his eyebrows. Sha Bun spread his hands and said again. He intercepted our fleet and was not willing to pay the fee we paid, so he wanted to search the ship. If he found those treasure chests, he would not let it go. So, I made the first move. Jie was silent. Vice Admiral Gongdu was very strong, but Sha Bun killed him. Most importantly, the news was concealed. The Sha Huang clan had been stationed on Spitfire Island for so many days, but the Empire's navy never showed any signs of coming. It was clear that Sha Bun had many tricks up his sleeve. So, your caravan robbed the Empire's navy first? Jie was silent for a while before speaking. Sha Bun laughed. How should I put it, don't all caravans do this kind of thing? When they are doing business, they will become bandits when they encounter something they can rob. To be honest, I don't think that becoming a bandit is a shameful thing. There is a popular story in the human race. The general content is that a young man accidentally obtained a cultivation method and became a heroic knight. He repeatedly robbed the rich to help the poor. Finally, he was forced to the mountains and formed a bandit gang. He beat the nobles of the kingdom until they were miserable and frightened. After that, the kingdom was invaded by foreign enemies, and the nobles rebelled. The young man led the bandit gang to save the capital. Because of an accident, he was found to be of the royal bloodline. In the end, he was recognized by the king, who thought that the young man's virtue was beneficial to the whole kingdom, like the light of the sun. The young man was thus enfeoffed with a territory and became a Sun Knight. At this point, Sha Bun raised his thumb and pointed at himself. I am not a human, but a giant. I also want to be the son of my race. Jie nodded and put away the first fist ring with a complicated expression. Let me study it for a few days. Chapter 401. Chia and Sha Bun walked out of the tavern one after the other. Watching the two leave, Song Su and San Dao looked at each other speechlessly in a tavern room about a kilometer away. Ever since the ghost had snuck in, they had heard the contents of Sha Bun and Chia's conversation. San Dao was speechless. Giant Sha Bun, this guy is really amazing. This was his heartfelt praise. As a former mercenary group leader, San Dao immediately discovered that his vision and structure were completely different from Sha Bun's. This is a strategist. Ambitious and highly skilled in politics. Song Su had once been a butler of a noble family. In his view, the mediation and negotiation skills that Sha Zhan had displayed in this conversation were quite experienced. Just by looking at Chia's performance, we can tell that Sha Bun is very effective. In fact, he used many things. For example, the relationship between Chia and the Lord of Fire Spray City, the former's love and reverence for the latter, and the love and attachment of these giants to their home, Fire Spray Island. He also attached great importance to the collection of information. When he was stationed in the city, he investigated many things. From this, we can see that this giant Sha Bun has a certain personality. For example, he plans before acting and is good at using things. Song Su and San Dao discussed for a while, and decided to go back and report the situation first. Because the treasure chests were right under the eyes of Sha Bun and the others, it was extremely difficult to take action. Looking at Sha Bun's behavior, he should not have discovered that the saint-level puppet was missing. Song Su and San Dao returned to the agreed-upon location. ZD and Lan Zhao had also just returned. Hearing the personal accounts of the two groups, the young captain and the others sighed with emotion. I didn't expect that we would be saved by the customs of the giants and gain some time. But will the giants check the treasure chests after returning to their base? Should we hurry and steal the red and blue elemental essences before they find out? After all, once they find out, their defenses will be even tighter. If they check the treasure chests, we won't have enough time. The alchemy array in the inn hasn't been dismantled yet, it's very risky. Once discovered, there will be many traces left behind by us. But if we steal again, we'll definitely need it. Since clan leader 100 Needles is here, what should we do? Everyone discussed and expressed their opinions. The situation had become very complicated. Right then, a message came from Deep Sea Monster. Zhong Ji's situation was taking a turn for the worse. He was in grave danger. Haven't you always been using the green liquid to maintain your life force? Sandao suddenly became anxious. More messages were sent, indicating that there was a problem with the formation that created the green liquid. According to the Tower Genie's records, the golden green jade coffin had suddenly experienced a huge tremor, causing the array in the core area to be damaged beyond repair. As a result, the array failed. Golden green jade coffin? Everyone was bewildered. The blue charm god's true body and the feathered serpent god's main soul were imprisoned in the divine weapon. Sang Su's face darkened. It seems that the confrontation between the two gods has become unstable. We have to hurry back and repair the array. By now, the other treatment methods could no longer stabilize Zhong Ji's body. They could only rely on the green liquid. However, the healing effects of the green liquid gradually weakened on Zhong Ji's body. They had to build a more complete alchemy array. Of course, they had to use the red and blue crystal clusters to make the green liquid more effective and heal Zhong Go. Returning to Deep Sea Monster, everyone was shocked to find that the golden green jade coffin was empty. Where's the goddess? Everyone looked at each other, feeling as if they had fallen into an abyss. They hurriedly checked the Tower Genie's records and found that after the golden green jade coffin shook and destroyed the alchemy array, the goddess' true body in the golden green jade coffin slowly disappeared. The goddess left? Lan Zhao's eyes widened. Why didn't she take revenge on us? ZD frowned. Maybe she's too weak? Sandao guessed. Sang Su shook his head slightly. If the goddess wakes up, what will happen to her injuries? The blue charm goddess was seriously injured and could only lie to herself and fall into a deep sleep to maintain her vitality. If she woke up, it would mean that she was going to die. The young captain suddenly said, "She should still be inside, but our vision was deceived. Remember the sky pillar CI? There is no half-plane there. The truth is that the goddess is in a deep sleep and emitted a divine domain." The young man's speculation was very reasonable. There were precedents of this situation. But who could be sure? Let me prove it. At the critical moment, the young man mustered up his courage and walked to the golden green jade coffin. Under everyone's gaze, he was about to reach into the coffin. His movements paused, and a red light appeared on the young man's body. He immediately transformed into the Murloc divine sun. Only then did he reach in and feel around. Immediately, the young man said in surprise, "I've touched her." But this feeling is also slowly disappearing. Everyone let out a sigh of relief. The goddess is still here. That's good. But we can't go on like this. That's right. The blue charm divine domain will continue to expand, at least to the size of the sky pillar CI. We can't bear it at all. By then, we will all fall into the divine domain and be deceived. The monster fish will also fall because of this. Damn it, at the critical moment there was a fire behind us. Everyone was distressed. Some people held their heads, and despair appeared on their faces. It was as if the fire-breathing island was about to become a tomb, a giant tomb where everyone was buried. Sang Su's voice was still calm. Thinking about it, it's not strange. The blue charm goddess is different from the feathered serpent god. The blue charm goddess has many believers. Even if the blue charm goddess is destroyed, there are still many believers left outside. The feathered serpent god is different. There are almost no believers left. The two gods were in a stalemate, but the blue charm goddess is gradually recovering. In time, she will definitely suppress the feathered serpent god's soul. Sandao's expression was ferocious. What's the use of analyzing this now? What are we going to do? Lord Zhonggu won't be able to hold on for long. Song Su sighed bitterly. We can try to rebuild the alchemy array. The blue charm goddess's condition is stable now. ZD suddenly said. Perhaps it's because we used the golden sapphire coffin that weakened the feathered serpent god's soul even more. That's why the blue charm goddess is starting to gain the upper hand. Sandao's body trembled as he stared at ZD. ZD also looked back and said to Sandao, I'm just stating the facts. I'm not giving up on Zhonggu. However, even if we rebuild the array while the golden sapphire coffin is stable, we won't have the red and blue crystals. The array will be no different from before. It won't have much effect on Zhonggu. Everyone was silent. Then what are we waiting for? I'll steal it now or negotiate. Sandao immediately shouted. Steal it now? It's daytime. In front of the giant's eyes? If we want to steal it, we'll need the help of the silver gargoyle puppet. I feel like negotiation isn't a good choice. From what you said, that Sha Bun isn't an ordinary saint. He's very cunning. Everyone's words made Sandao's expression darken. He could hear the underlying meaning. Zhongji's condition is very bad. The young captain finished his inspection and stood up beside Zhonggu. Zhonggu had already been moved to the core cabin. After all, the core of the green liquid array was the golden sapphire coffin. Rebuild the original array first, the young captain ordered. This way, Zhonggu can at least hold on until the night after tomorrow. Tonight, we'll move again and steal it. We'll try to steal the red and blue crystals. Understood, sir. Song Su bowed. In fact, we only need to repair it. After all, at least the core of the original array is damaged. Sandao looked at the young man gratefully and breathed a sigh of relief. However, just as Song Su was repairing the array, the Justice Pirates once again found out an earth-shattering piece of information. What? The Imperial Navy headquarters was destroyed by pirates? It was the Firebeard pirates who did it? This group first set out from the pirate holy city and arrived at the Eye of the Sea Pillar. Then they split up to confuse the enemy and finally raided the military port. Firebeard had burned down the military port almost single-handedly. Mudong was seriously injured and retreated. Blue Charm God flew away on the spot. The second leader, Duo Bai, the third leader, Feng Yao, and the newly promoted saint, Red Turban, all participated in this battle. Not only Feng Yao, it is said that Ash was also rescued by Firebeard from the Eye of the Sea Pillar. The Justice Pirates were shocked. This was a military port, the headquarters of the Imperial Navy. It was actually destroyed. And by a pirate gang. This was really a disgrace to the Empire. For thousands of years, they had never seen the Empire suffer such a big loss. Firebeard, for a time, this name was deeply engraved in the hearts of everyone. After a few days of spreading, the news of the military port finally spread to the world. Flame Island was just one of the stops. On the holy monument in the pirate holy city, Firebeard's name was ranked first. This was the first time the three legendary pirate groups had made a move since the battle for the pirate throne. Unexpectedly, this move was earth-shattering, as if a hole had been poked in the sky. How will the Empire react now? Firebeard will definitely be counterattacked by the Grand Duke of the Empire. Is the war between legends and gods about to start? Not only that, Firebeard is now close to the pirate throne. What will the other two legendary pirate groups do? They will definitely be unfavorable to Firebeard. In an instant, the Firebeard pirates have made enemies on all sides. The situation is very dangerous. No, he should still have allies. Think about it, the orcs will probably protect Firebeard and show goodwill to him. Firebeard's current state is already half a step on the threshold of becoming the Pirate King. Everyone was discussing. The young captain's mood was very heavy. The situation is very bad, guys. Didn't I tell you? Kaze is cursed by the goddess of love, and he can sense the location of Blue Charm God. Even the Blue Charm God realm can't stop this ability. Our pearl foam is also difficult to hide. In other words, Firebeard knows the location of Blue Charm God and that we are hiding on Flame Island. These words made the discussion come to an abrupt end, and everyone fell into a dead silence. So, our enemy is Firebeard's pirate group? After a long time, a voice broke the silence. For now, it seems so. Song Su sighed heavily. If we snatch Blue Charm God, we will definitely obtain unimaginable pirate divinity. At that time, Firebeard will definitely sit firmly on the throne and become the new pirate king. There are other pirates. ZD's voice became hoarse. Firebeard is too bold. He even dares to attack the military port. He won't be too afraid of Flame Island. He got the information from Kaze. Once he attacks, he will attract a lot of attention. The other two legendary pirate groups will definitely not sit by and watch Firebeard succeed. They will definitely stop him. They will most likely attack us as well. Everyone's faces were pale. The Imperial Navy, the three legendary pirate groups, the Lord of Flame Island, Chia, Sandbun, and the Dying Zone Go, the main body of Blue Charm God that was gradually getting rid of the stalemate and gaining the upper hand. God, what should we do? How did it turn out like this? If we knew this would happen, we should have just died on Fog Island. In this situation, even if we save Zone Go, what can we do? He will still die. Everyone could not think of a way, and in the end, they all looked at the young captain. The young man slowly shook his head. What could he do? He walked out of the cabin with a frown. ZD looked at everyone and quickly left with the young man. The sky was very clear today. The sun shone brightly, and the sea and sky were the same color. A gentle breeze blew. The young man dived out of deep-sea monster fish and came to an empty beach. He looked at the scenery in front of him. His heavy heart was a stark contrast to the natural beauty in front of him. ZD walked over. The footprints she left on the beach disappeared with the rising tide. The young man sat on the beach and ZD sat beside him. The two of them sat side by side, but they did not speak. After a long silence, the young man whispered, "I feel very guilty. I was the one who led everyone out of Fog Island, but now we are in a desperate situation. How did we end up like this? We just wanted to get rid of our crimes and find connections to contact the upper echelons of the Empire to get forgiveness and redemption." Perhaps. The young man lowered his head and looked at the sand between his feet. "I am not a good leader. I am not strong, and I am not good at politics. If I was like Sandbun, perhaps the situation would be much better. Perhaps we would have successfully gotten rid of our crimes." "No, it's not like that." ZD put her hand on the young man's arm. "If you were Sandbun, then we would have fallen apart long ago. Sandbun is an ambitious person. Just because he is not reconciled, he will take risks without care of his own safety, even at the expense of the entire tribe. His chances of success are very low. In order to satisfy his selfish desires, he used the entire tribe as a tool. You are different. Believe me, you are better than Sandbun. In our group, who can really trust each other? Who can trust the beastmen, the goblins, or the necromancers?" ZD smiled. "Only you can lead us, because you are fair and just, and have never given up on any of your companions. The virtue of a knight persists and manifests in you. Everyone trusts and trusts you very much. Without you, we would have already had internal strife. You are the leader of all of us. Without you, this group would not have lasted until now." The young man shook his head and smiled bitterly. "I am a knight? Aren't you?" ZD raised her eyebrows. "You practice Dochi, White River Dochi. According to the clues we collected, you should be a knight of the Empire, but not famous. A relatively ordinary silver knight. Even if something happened, it would not cause a big commotion. The war traffickers chose you to be Zhen Jin's substitute for a reason. The young man nodded. I guess so too. It's a pity that the true memories that belonged to me never surfaced. Do you know? I have a plan. I want to find my original identity after I am free of my crime and be myself. Because that is me, the real me. But now I am just an idiot who knows nothing about my identity, a beast, a monster. Sometimes I am also very afraid. When I become a dragon or a merman, I am worried that I will give up my former self and live for power. The young man looked at his hand and said, About this. ZD suddenly held the young man's hand. I have a different view from you. I like this about you. The young man's body shook and looked at ZD. ZD did not evade. Her pair of purple crystal eyes quietly stared at the young man. The two of them sat together on the beach and looked at each other. ZD sincerely said, In this world, no one will always be willing to accept their fate. At some point, people will always feel resentment, hatred, anger, and even despair. Everyone, including those geniuses. But relatively ordinary people like us feel even more. God said that people are sinful. So, we need to atone for our sins. I admit it. When I was in dire straits in my life, I once had bad thoughts. I thought of murder and robbery. Everyone has dark thoughts, or a past that is unbearable to look back on. But with you here, around you, all of this can be tolerated, understood, and accepted by each other. Because you are a beast knight. In you we all see ourselves. And you always adhere to justice and morality. Let us also believe in the beauty of human nature, that we can be saved. Yes, don't doubt, you are so special, so excellent, I am deeply infatuated with you. ZD. The young man whispered, his mood was agitated, and he grabbed ZD's hand. ZD didn't pull her hand away. She boldly made a confession. She didn't want to repeat the mistake on the strange island. She wanted to seize the opportunity. It was likely that tomorrow, the Justice Pirates would be completely destroyed. She didn't want to regret it. The young man stared at ZD, and ZD stared at the young man. Their faces were getting closer and closer. Under the illumination of the sun, the shadows of the two people finally stuck together. After a long time, their lips parted. The beauty of love made ZD's cheeks blush, and her purple crystal eyes became more attractive. And the young man drew endless courage and motivation from it. He suddenly stood up. I've decided. What? ZD froze. The next moment, she saw the young man's determined face and burning eyes. I'm going to negotiate with Blue Charm Goddess. Chapter 402. Voodoo Rainforest. In the deep darkness of the night, the dense rainforest whimpered as the wind shuttled back and forth. On the ground full of rotten branches and leaves, the roots and vines that fell to the ground were intertwined with each other. Hissed tricolored spearhead viper, jumping viper, horned palm viper, lateral band palm viper, coral snake, paradise tree snake, golden flower snake, viper, forest boa, forest cobra, and so on. Large groups of snakes gathered from all directions like a tide, drowning the soil, climbing and shuttling between the roots and vines. Their destination was only one, and that was the cabin in the woods. There seemed to be a huge temptation in the cabin, making these snakes desperate and fanatical. Pung! With a soft sound, a flame suddenly rose from the cabin in the woods. From the beginning of the flame, it was a raging fire, enveloping the entire cabin, burning fiercely and quickly spreading around. This was not an ordinary flame. The color of the fire was dark green, and it did not emit any heat. Instead, as it burned, a strong chill eroded people's hearts. Seeing this green fire, the snakes became more manic and rushed into the flame. The green fire burned, like a giant beast opening its mouth, swallowing all creatures. The snakes swam into the green fire, like candles meeting heat, quickly melting. Their scales, skin, and flesh were the first to melt. Then, the remaining snake bones also melted at a relatively slow speed. The snakes died more and more, and the melting of each snake provided the essence of the whole body to the green fire. The green fire got burning materials and burned more and more. Soon, the green fire reached 4 meters high and expanded to a radius of 300 meters, which was particularly conspicuous in the rainforest at night. Unlike the scene outside, there was not the slightest bit of green fire in the cabin. Instead, there was thick smoke. The smoke was very choking, and the 4 legendary powerhouses in the cabin almost held their breath. Except for Emolao. This female Naga, a legendary level diviner, was swaying her body in the smoke. She kept singing, her snake body swayed, and her arms were surrounded by gray mist. The ballad she sang was simple and ancient, yet it was filled with a mysterious and distant concept. The other 3 legends had been listening quietly for a while, feeling uncomfortable, and there was a horror lingering in their hearts. At first, it was Igue, one of the marine admirals, who came to the cabin in the woods and asked for help from his best friend Emolao. The first divination failed. After that, the 2 legendary pirate leaders, Hua Sheng and Asa, appeared. They brought the poison sex holy item and asked Emolao to perform another divination. Over the past few days, Emolao repeatedly performed divinations and failed repeatedly. Including the first time, she had already failed 4 times. Every time she failed, she would suffer heavy injuries. Her injuries worsened, but she continued to try. Every time he healed, rested, and prepared, the time he took to do so grew longer and longer. Every time, the method of divination became stranger and stranger, and the momentum became greater and greater. This was her 5th divination, and it should also be her last. According to the rules of the 5 poison sect, the divination master could not repeatedly perform a divination. However, if one obtained the poison sect's relic, they would be able to override this rule. Asa brought 3 holy items, while Hua Xing brought 1. The 5th time would be the last time, unless he found a new holy artifact. Amidst the thick smoke, Hua Xing leaned against a wooden pillar. He narrowed his eyes and stared at the ink bag. He was tall and thin, with long ears and green hair. He had the unique handsomeness and confidence of the elf clan. The thin sword hanging at his waist was very eye-catching. The handle of the thin sword was like a rose bud, delicate like a work of art. Hua Xing had used this legendary weapon to make a name for himself as the Great Sword Saint. Asa was huddled in a corner. There was only a ball of black smoke, and his figure could not be seen. He specialized in dark magic, and had the bloodline of the evil demon. He was ruthless and vicious. This time, he had brought 3 of the poison sect's holy treasures to the poison sect by himself. Bright red lights lit up in the black smoke from time to time, revealing that Asa had been paying attention to the ink bag. An Igue looks like a princess, not a marine admiral. She was wearing an exaggerated golden-pink princess dress with a wide and fluffy skirt. She wore long silk gloves and a lovely pink lace parasol, the handle of which hung from the crook of her arm. The smoke could not hide Igue's worried expression. The ink bag was her best friend, and she had a deep friendship with the ink bag. But at this moment, the ink bag's state made Igue worried. She had never seen the ink bag in such a miserable state. The originally plump figure was now as thin as a match. The originally smooth and beautiful snake scales had turned pale, as if she had been hit by a petrification curse. The ink bag's hair was originally strong and powerful, but now it was like a poisoned weed, extremely withered. The ink bag's mental state was also very abnormal. She sometimes giggled, sometimes was in a daze, sometimes gritted her teeth, and sometimes cried out fanatically. Finally, she was so tired that she stopped. Her chest was like a bellows, and she was panting. She stretched out her hand, and a medicine jar flew into her hand. Gulp, gulp, she opened the medicine jar and poured all the thick green medicine into her throat. Enough. Stop it, Emolao. You've already done your best and reached your limit. Igwe finally could not help but say, "No." The ink bag immediately shook her head. Hold on, I can hold on for longer. I can feel the ancestral spirits watching. They're all here, they're all crowded in the room. They're all waiting for me. The corners of Igwe's eyes twitched. Don't continue. This potion is extremely toxic. You once told me that I could only drink 10 milliliters of it every time I used it. When you used it to heal your injuries during the divination, you knew how to control it. Look at you now. You're drinking it jar by jar. Do you want to die? There's too much poison accumulated in your body. How can you treat it in the future? Emolao drank the entire jar of medicinal water. Then, with a bang, he directly smashed the jar onto the floor. She grinned at Igwe, revealing her teeth stained with green water. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. The ink bag comforted her best friend. My liver has long been modified by me. Its ability is very strong. It can detoxify poison and… Ugh! Before she could finish speaking, the ink bag suddenly vomited. The vomit was very strange. It was like mud but also like black oil. It was very thick and emitted a strong stench. Slap. There was a soft sound. An internal organ was also vomited out. The 3 legends present were all stunned. Hua Sheng no longer leaned on the wooden pillar. Scarlet eyes lit up in Ace's black fog. Igwe's eyes widened. She recognized it and couldn't help but exclaim, "Heavens, this is your liver! You vomited out your liver. Without a liver, how can you detoxify the poison?" The ink bag's face was pale. She forced a smile and said, "It's okay. Look at what I've vomited. These are the remnants of the medicine that I've digested. They all carry poison, but now I've vomited them out. Although my liver is gone, I still have my stomach. My digestive ability is very good, ugh." Before she could finish speaking, the ink bag began to vomit violently again. Slap. Another internal organ was vomited out. Hua Xing's expression changed slightly. Ah Sang's black fog condensed into a human form. Igwe covered her mouth. "Heavens! This is your stomach." The ink bag's face showed a determined expression. "Even if my stomach is gone, I will continue. As long as my heart is still beating, I will not stop." In the next moment, she vomited out her heart as well. Hua Xing lowered his hands and no longer hugged her with his arms. Asa took a few steps forward and carefully observed the ink bag's heart. Her expression was solemn. Igwe was extremely nervous. "Ink bag." The ink bag's body shook and she screamed shrilly, "Don't stop me. I'm about to succeed. Even if I don't have a heart, I can still survive for a while. As long as I'm still breathing." Bang. A small explosion suddenly occurred. The ink bag's entire chest was blown through, forming a large hole that connected the front and back. The lungs inside were blown into pieces and powder. This time, the ink bag's breathing also stopped. Igwe! The Navy Admiral immediately took action and took out a scroll from her arms. But in the next moment, Hua Xing and Asa stood on her left and right. "What are you doing?" Igwe shouted and was about to attack with all her strength. "Calm down, Navy Admiral. We have no intention of harming you and the ink bag." "That's right, the ink bag has already begun to break through. The voodoo sex things are very different from conventional mage cultivation. You're confused because you're concerned." Hua Xing and Asa persuaded at the same time. Igwe forced himself to calm down and saw the ink bag move again. Her movements were slow and difficult as she took out the voodoo sex holy objects one by one. She stuffed a frog-shaped copper holy object into the hole in her chest. Breathing is the sinking of the nose and mouth. In the next moment she could breathe again. She then placed a blood-colored crystal holy object in the shape of a skull in the empty space of her heart. The heartbeat is the struggle of life. Thus, she had a heartbeat again. If you don't want to be digested by everything, then you have to digest everything. She stuffed the other two holy objects into her body and used them as her stomach and liver. After doing all this, she took a deep breath. Although her body was extremely weak and her injuries were extremely serious, and there was no treatment at all, her spirit was very excited. Ancestral spirits. She let out a shrill cry and then danced the sacrificial dance again. During the dance, her body began to emit light. No, to be precise, it was the light emitted by the holy objects in her body that constantly converged and merged with her body and soul. The smoke suddenly became thicker. The green fire in the house whistled and rolled wildly, sweeping away the surrounding snakes and trees, burning them into countless ashes. The ink bag's life aura underwent a subtle qualitative change. Igui and Hua Xing both revealed shocked expressions. Demigod! Asa murmured softly. The ink bag's body shook. I see it! On fire-breathing island. After saying this, she fell to the ground with a bang. It was unknown whether she was alive or dead. Chapter 403. Spitfire Island. The alchemy factory inside the volcano. This is the place. The legendary giant Spitfire City Lord said to Tucker beside him. Tucker observed his surroundings. This was the deepest part of the factory, and also the most heavily guarded place. The largest area was the central magma furnace. It had a radius of at least 500 meters and was surrounded by a dark golden dam. The dam was about 3 meters high and firmly wrapped around the boiling, gurgling orange-red magma. The heat was majestic, steaming Tucker's face. This should be the largest lava alchemy furnace in the Empire. Awesome! Tucker sighed from the bottom of his heart. With it, I can increase the efficiency of refining some alchemy items by at least 30%. The Spitfire City Lord couldn't help but laugh. Tucker's words greatly improved her impression of him. These were the words of an alchemist, which resonated with the Spitfire City Lord and made him proud. Tucker observed the alchemy tools around the wall. These tools were all very large. Some were like cranes, some were drilling machines, and some were huge iron pliers. These alchemy tools were all rough in shape, full of the style of giant. Tucker commented a few words and guessed the purpose of the tools. Most of his guesses were correct, allowing the Spitfire City Lord and Brick to feel his talent. There were also some guesses wrong. Tucker immediately asked for advice, his posture very humble. After the Spitfire City Lord explained a few words, Tucker praised. His words were meaningful, causing Brick to involuntarily raise the corners of his mouth. This is the main place where I make giant puppets. The space in other places is small, and only here can I use it. This is the latest puppet I've refined. Please take a look. The Spitfire City Lord took the initiative to say, giving Brick a look. Brick immediately moved, activating the array and turning on a certain switch. The next moment, the magma boiled and suddenly surged up, forming a small hill. The small hill broke open, and magma flowed everywhere. A huge humanoid puppet slowly rose. There seemed to be a lift under its feet. Tucker's pupils shrank, revealing a solemn expression. His main purpose for coming here was this. Please forgive my offense. Tucker bowed and saluted the Spitfire City Lord. Take a look. The Spitfire City Lord smiled. This giant puppet sample had long been prepared for Tucker's use. Tucker used alchemy in succession, observing the inside and outside of the giant puppet. The giant puppet was 6 meters tall and had a robust physique. Its main material was made of copper and iron alloy, which had excellent hardness and toughness. There were arrays inside and outside the puppet, and after some observation, Tucker discovered that there were over 100 arrays. The arrays combined to form three major system array groups. They were the Power System Array Group, the Firepower System Array Group, and the Defense System Array Group. Tucker was immediately engrossed in this. As his understanding deepened, his face couldn't help but reveal a hint of shock and astonishment. Tucker couldn't distinguish the main material used for the giant puppet's body. This was an exclusive alloy material, which should have been developed by the flame-spitting city alone. The material's performance is pretty good, but the key is the cost. Tucker guessed that the cost didn't seem high. This meant that mass production was possible. One must understand that this was a saint-level golem. Mass production, just the thought of it was enough to make one's heart palpitate. Apart from the main body's materials, the array formations arranged inside and outside the giant puppet's body were also very outstanding. Tucker counted carefully. There should be 121 arrays in the giant puppet. This number wasn't high, it could even be said to be very low. The number of arrays wasn't high, which meant that the cost of setting them up was limited to an acceptable range. This also meant mass production. The key was that the arrays were in harmony with each other, and their performance wasn't bad at all. There is one more thing. This is only a sample that the flame-spitting city showed me. The complete form of the giant puppet is definitely stronger than this one. After a short moment, Tucker stopped his alchemy spell. If your city's giant puppet appears, the entire arms market will be in turmoil. Even the Empire might have to purchase from your city. Tucker sighed. But the flame-spitting city lord shook his head. The cost is far higher than you think, Count Tucker. Moreover, the manufacturing process isn't simple. This is the place where the puppet can be manufactured. There are very high standards for the manufacturing environment. Sir Tucker. The rest is up to you. Brick was somewhat impatient. Tucker nodded. Although the giant puppet was good, it had an extremely important flaw. It had no intelligence. That was why the flame-spitting city invited him to enchant the giant puppet. Tucker took out a scroll from his bosom. This is a spiritual awakening scroll. My latest work. I think it's more meaningful to give it to Miss Brick to use. As he spoke, Tucker handed the scroll to Gia. This was a sanctuary-level scroll. When Brick took it, she couldn't help but show hesitation. As everyone knew, activating the intelligence of objects like alchemy puppets, mage towers, and magic ships consumed the caster's soul. After casting the spell, the upper limit of a mage's spirit would be permanently reduced. Tucker said, "Don't worry, the cost of using this scroll is only some of your magic power. It's completely unharmed to your soul and spirit." In an instant, Brick and the flame-spitting city lord's eyes shone with surprise. Brick immediately opened the scroll, imbued it with magic power, and successfully cast the spell. The scroll itself turned into ashes, but the condensed light flew into the giant puppet. Feeling the light, the alchemy array in the giant puppet's body quickly revolved, emitting strong magic power fluctuations. About a quarter of an hour later, the giant puppet's eyes suddenly lit up. First, it was its hands and feet, then its whole body. It started moving. The giant puppet stretched its limbs, first observing its body, then scanning its surroundings. When it saw the flame-spitting city lord and the other two, it bowed to Brick. "Master, Sandgord reports to you." Gia was a spellcaster, so the giant puppet took her as its master and listened to her orders. Even the name Sandgord was given by her. Tienya, on the other hand, had a serious look on his face. "Sha Gua, introduce me, and show me your ability to a limited extent." Next, the giant puppet began its performance. Jumping, turning, running, rolling, crawling forward, using the array to activate spells to attack. Very good, very good. The flame-spitting city lord nodded repeatedly, unable to hide the joy on his face. This was exactly the result she wanted. "Count, if I hadn't used it myself, I wouldn't have believed that such a spiritual awakening scroll could exist in this world. Although Brick hated Tucker, she sincerely admired him at this moment. The flame-spitting city lord asked, "It was a wise decision to invite you to cooperate. Count Tucker, I wonder how much your spiritual awakening scroll costs?" Tucker smiled and quoted a price. The price surprised the flame-spitting city lord and Brick. It wasn't too high, but too low. "Honorable Count, are you joking?" Jieya almost doubted his own ears. Tucker smiled. "In fact, the cost of making this kind of alchemy scroll is very low. According to my price, my profit margin is already very large. Normally speaking, the essence of spiritual awakening spells is the consumption of souls. I referred to necromancy and used the soul fragments of other casters to create this kind of scroll. I have to say, in the field of souls, necromancy is unique. It makes me gasp in amazement." Necromancy. The flame-spitting city lord and Brick's expressions changed slightly. Necromancy was strictly forbidden, whether it was the sacred empire or the forces of other continents. They all suppressed and hunted them down. Tucker, however, secretly studied necromancy and directly told outsiders like the flame-spitting city lord and Brick. Was he showing his sincerity, or was he being careless? "The two of you don't need to worry. I have already informed the patriarch of my clan about this, and I have already obtained the permission of the Empire," Tucker explained. Brick was immediately relieved. Yes, on one hand, the major forces were desperately suppressing necromancy, on the other hand, they were secretly studying and learning. "With your scroll and our puppets, I believe that our cooperation will be very pleasant." The flame-spitting city lord smiled. Tucker also smiled and nodded. The craftsmanship of puppets was top-notch in Flame-Spitting City. His cooperation with Flame-Spitting City could be said to be a strong alliance. Next, they discussed the details of the cooperation in detail. After half a day, the discussion ended. Both sides reached a consensus. Tucker's straightforward personality once again attracted the favor of the Flame-Spitting City Lord and Brick. "I just advocate fair trade," Tucker explained with a smile. After parting with the Flame-Spitting City Lord, Tucker returned to his residence in a very good mood. This time, he came to Flame-Spitting Island mainly for this cooperation. Now it seemed that the prospects of cooperation were very broad, and the future benefits were extremely huge and very tempting. Tucker, who was in a good mood, tried to refine items again. Double happiness came at the same time. His previous attempt on the ship had failed, but this time, he succeeded. "With this, I can complete the task assigned by my teacher." Tucker exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. It felt good to have nothing to do. He was looking forward to playing around and relaxing on Flame-Spitting Island tomorrow. Next, let me see who this deliberately destroyed magic device is contacting. Tucker poured magic power and activated the alchemy item. It's the patriarch of the 100 Needles clan? Tucker blinked and froze. Wait a minute. Tucker didn't believe the answer, but instinctively began to doubt himself. Did I refine the right item? He was inspired by the 9 mystical swords of the patriarch of the 100 Needles clan, so he built a new alchemy array. Therefore, the newly refined alchemy item might be related to the patriarch of the 100 Needles clan for other reasons. Tucker began a careful and comprehensive examination. When he was immersed in the field of alchemy, time passed quickly. Most of the night passed. Tucker looked surprised and doubtful. Yes. This is the truth. It's really the patriarch of the 100 Needles clan. Chapter 404. Jetty Island Wharf. The head of the 100 Needles tribe and Arm Tile disguised themselves as mercenaries and shuttled through the narrow alleys. The alleys here were not narrow at all, which had the characteristics of the giants. The unique fishy smell of the wharf came from time to time. The head of the 100 Needles tribe and Arm Tile shuttled through the alleys, sometimes turning and sometimes stopping. In inconspicuous places, sometimes on the door of a thick wooden door, sometimes in the corner of a moss-covered wall, there were secret codes engraved on them. These codes looked like children's graffiti, but in fact they were traceable and hinted at the next direction. The head of the 100 Needles tribe followed the instructions in the letter and found the secret code in the wharf. He had to save his son Jinjin. This was the only future of the 100 Needles tribe. After a total of more than a dozen codes, the head of the 100 Needles tribe and Armtile finally stopped in front of the last code. The code was on the lintel of an abandoned hut. Armtile walked in cautiously. After checking, he returned in disappointment. "Sir, no one is here. There's only this." It was another letter. The head of the 100 Needles tribe unfolded the letter, but he couldn't make out the contents. He sighed. "It's a code that needs to be deciphered. The way to decipher it is in the previous letter. This pirate group is very secretive. It seems that they have a big plan." The head of the 100 Needles tribe could only go back with disappointment and worry. Not long after he left, a flying insect flew out from a hidden corner. The flying insect was like a mosquito, inconspicuous, but its direction was clear. It went straight to Jetty Island in the center of the island. When it flew past a corner, the flying insect that had been lying in the corner also flew out and merged with it. After passing through the curtains of a restaurant, another flying insect flew out. When they passed a wild dog, another flying insect flew out from the dog's hair. The flying insect flew all the way, and its companions flew out from every corner one after another. The flying insects merged into one, and the buzzing sound became louder. They flew all the way through the alleys, passing through the dirty sewage and bypassing the noisy market. In the strong fishy smell, they were indistinguishable from the normal mosquitoes and flies. They then jumped over the fields and rocks and passed through the city gate right under the eyes of the city guards. On the main road they encountered a gold-level mage. The female mage frowned and waved her hand to disperse the swarm of mosquitoes and flies. She did not notice anything strange about them at all. In the end, these mosquitoes and flies flew into the inner city of Spitfire City and arrived at a garden villa that was specially arranged for VIPs to stay. The windows were already open. The mosquitoes and flies obediently flew in through the window and landed in a metal basin. The food had already been prepared in the basin. A large pile of elemental crystals had been specially ground into powder. In addition, in another metal basin next to it, there was a large amount of transparent, slightly brown lubricant. The swarms of mosquitoes and flies perched on the crystal powder and devoured it for some time. Then, they flew into the lubricant and rolled a few times. In the end, they all stopped on the table, motionless as if they were dead. Not long after, Tucker opened the door and came in. "Let me see what's going on." Out of curiosity, he used alchemy to activate another function of these alchemy mosquitoes and flies. Soon, a series of images appeared in Tucker's mind. Connecting these images, Tucker immediately knew the journey and experience of the Patriarch of 100 Needles and the arm tile. It's a mysterious secret signal. What is he going to do? His real destination should be Spitfire Island. Is he going to secretly meet with the Justice Pirates? Wait, could it be that the Justice Pirates are here? Tucker frowned and his face became solemn. No, this guess lacks evidence. The Justice Pirates contacted the Patriarch of 100 Needles, but it doesn't mean that the person the Patriarch wants to secretly meet at this moment is the Justice Pirates. Of course, this is not a small possibility. Tucker knew about the Justice Pirate. His teacher gave him this task and asked him to find clues of the sender from the magic communication device that had been blown to pieces. He had found it now. What made him a little dumbfounded was that the reason why he could find it so quickly was that he met the Patriarch of 100 Needles, who had been shipwrecked, and found inspiration through his legendary 9 swords. The Justice Pirates are related to Blue Charm Goddess. It's no small matter. What should I do? Tucker's status was very high. Besides, the Imperial Navy didn't want to hide the matter of Heaven's Pillar because it couldn't be hidden. By now, it was no longer a secret. Thinking of the extremely weak blue charm goddess, Tucker was excited. Just like what Wei Xing had in mind, Tucker also coveted the goddess' true form. But soon, he shook his head slightly. It's too risky. There's almost no reliable information at all. I'm just as sacred. I'd better tell this information to my teacher first. He didn't choose to tell this information to Spitfire Island first. On the one hand, he wasn't sure if the Justice Pirates were on the island. On the other hand, the giants of Spitfire Island were separated from the humans. It was related to the weak body of Blue Charm Goddess, and the benefits were too great. Of course, Tucker believed in the humans and his teacher more. Tucker made up his mind and immediately took action to report to his teacher. After a while, he reported the situation to his family. Not long after, he received a reply from his teacher. Teacher has already left and is applying for a teleportation portal. He's coming here in person? Tucker was a little speechless. He knew his teacher's nature well. He usually stayed in his alchemy lab, doing countless experiments and exploring the cutting edge of alchemy. He didn't expect him to go out this time. At least in 300 years, this is the first time teacher has gone out, right? But then Tucker thought about it and felt relieved. After all, this was related to the mystery of the gods. No legendary mage wouldn't be tempted. His teacher was the same. It's rare for teacher to leave. There must be a lot of movement in the City of Knowledge. Should I strengthen my communication with the fire-spitting city? After all, the Lord of Spitfire Island is a legendary mage and also the master of the forces here. Teacher came here to deal with her and discuss an urgent cooperation agreement in private. Without a doubt, Tucker was an elite talent among the nobles. He immediately thought of what he had to do. However, just as he was about to leave, he received a second reply. At first, he thought it was a reply from his family. But he didn't expect it to be from his teacher. The contents of the letter surprised him. His teacher gave up on the idea of coming and no longer took action. At the same time, he clearly told him to leave. Leave Spitfire Island as soon as possible. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.